Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's 6 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock, getting started on another exciting edition of The Drive for this Wednesday, August 23rd. We've got a lot of material to cover here today because there's a lot of stuff going on. One of the things, I mean, honestly, if you want to know, sometimes I used to get irritated by this, but I don't get irritated anymore. When you go and watch your local television news, and they go straight to the weather. I always thought weather has a place in a. When I was growing up, it used to be news, sports, and then weather. Now weather is like the lead of every newscast. But today it might be justified because it is hot. The official meteorological term for what we're experiencing out there is shoo-wee. Because that's what people say when they go outside. They go shoo-wee.
I was thinking.
I know it's like walking into a wet sponge when you step outside. But
that's been in the microwave.
That's right. So I've got 95 here in bucolic, Watertown.
I saw 99 earlier. Mac, I think, said it was 100.
I've got 101 right now.
101. Oh.
101 with a feel-like temperature probably of at least 115. I mean, honestly, with the humidity, I haven't checked the humidity. And of course, it's all about the humidity, I think. Let me just pull up my information if I can find the right one here. Okay, here we go. I can tell you that here in bucolic Watertown today, I can pull up the humidity number right here. The humidity is at 71%. So
you mean the dew point's at 71 degrees? Is that what you mean?
The average humidity is 71%. The dew point is 69 to 75. Just the relative humidity. Wow. So it's like it's about three-quarters. Well, I'm not quite three-quarters of the way to rain. Yes. That's how much moisture is absorbed in this air. And I'm telling you, it can hurt you, and it hurts you quick. So just take it slow and easy out there.
Be careful with your pets.
Oh yeah, we always talk about that. But, honestly, you do need to be careful about your pets, and make sure that my pet, believe me, not in any risk at all.
Well taken care of.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about what's going on. I mean, we got so much going on. In a moment, I'll get into what has happened in Russia. If you have not heard the story, there is a guy who was in charge of the Wagner Group. Now, this is the group that looked like it might be ready to sort of overthrow Putin at one point. The Wagner Group is a sort of a bunch of mercenaries that work for a guy named Yevgeny Prigozhin, and they were at one point, you may remember, in Ukraine, and then all of a sudden he just said, "We're out of here. We're bugging out of Ukraine. We're going to Moscow," and they were making a beeline for Moscow, and it looked as if there was going to be some kind of mutiny or overthrow of Putin, and nobody knew exactly what was going on. It was very scary for a while because we couldn't read the situation. We'll get into that in just a moment, and the president's surprising reaction to all of this, and where he was when reporters caught up with him is really quite something. We've got a debate going on, and I was mentioning in my Matt chat a little while ago that these debates. I've had the pleasure of being backstage as the moderators prepare for the debate, and it's quite interesting, what they do. I mean, literally, I watched Brit Hume and Chris Wallace just work for like 9-10 straight hours, and they'd already been working on it just before the debate. That's all they were focused on, was making sure that they got the wording just right, that they got the right topics. And there was a discussion about where do we go first, where do we go second, what are you going to ask so that I don't repeat what you're going to ask. And I mean, there's a great deal of coordination going on behind the scenes. And you'll have at least 7 of the presidential candidates on the stage. Donald Trump will not be there. He's going to be having a one-on-one interview. Well, it's already been recorded with Tucker Carlson, and he's talking about, well, The sparks are going to fly. You don't want to miss this interview. But of course, what he really wants is everybody to watch the interview that he's doing with Tucker and ignore the other, maybe as many as 7 or 8. You may ask, why are you, I mean, do you not know, Brian, whether it's 7 or 8? Well, it was supposed to be 8, but then there's this story. Governor Doug Burgum of North Dakota, who it did make the debate stage, is apparently has injured himself playing a pickup game of basketball with his campaign staff in Milwaukee on Tuesday. Governor Doug Burgum is 67 years old and ought not be playing a game of pickup basketball with his campaign staff in Milwaukee. And apparently he injured himself. He was taken to the emergency room while playing a pickup game with his staff on Tuesday. The North Dakota governor got injured and required medical attention. It's unknown whether Burgum will be able to stand on stage for the first GOP primary debate. He's one of 8 candidates that made the stage by meeting the polling and donor requirements, of course. But I guess the rule is you have to stand. It would be against the rules unless everybody agreed to give him a stool or something to sit on. He has to stand there, stand and deliver. And if you can't stand and deliver, then, it'd probably be better that you just, Burgum is not going to be, it just seems very likely to me that Burgum is not going to be the nominee. And, he's one of those names that most people don't even know who he is. So that's going on. And, it's going to be quite the thing to watch as these, what would be the strategy? I've been wondering about that. What, I was just asked by Matt and Cameron there, what would your question be? I think, there's a lot of good questions that you go into right now. Do you go with, what's happening, in the news headlines today? Do you go after, I thought it was a good question. What about this idea of a 2-tier system of government that rewards people who have a D behind their name and an R? If you got an R behind your name, then, you are persona non grata. You get a whole different kind of response from the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the whole 9 yards. So, is that's a pretty good question. I don't know. The thing is, it really, what you're looking for is that thing that nobody can predict. Nobody can predict what will be, that moment that everybody remembers. Sometimes you go into a debate and everybody's playing it so cautiously that it's a pretty bland experience. But some of these guys have got nothing to lose by playing it low key. They've got to take a stand. They've got to do something that captures the public's attention while everybody is watching at one time and everybody's on the same stage. So you can't predict what that thing is going to be, but you'll know it when you hear it. That's the thing I always say is you'll know it when you hear it, but you never know what it's going to be. Will everybody take a shot at DeSantis because he, among the 7, possibly 8 people that are on the stage, he's the leader. So do you try to knock him down a peg? I don't think it would serve well for people on that stage to go after Trump in a huge way. I just don't think that it would. If there's one guy out there who will do it, it's Chris Christie, I think. Chris Christie just can't stand Donald Trump. And I think he might try to do something. But I don't think, by and large, there'll be a lot of swipes at the front runner because the front runner is so far out in front. You don't want to damage, the guy who is actually likely to get the nomination. And so it'll be interesting. And if you want to be a part of that administration, you sure don't take a swipe at Donald Trump. So it'll be interesting to see whether they hold their fire against Trump. But I think the person who has probably got a target on his back right now, as far as that debate goes, is DeSantis as the leader. And the guy that I would watch as most likely able to sort of grab the spotlight and say something that everybody sort of remembers is Ramaswamy. He's quick, he's fast, and he's very glib and very quick. quick-witted, and I think he might be the one. The person that I think has the most to lose tonight is probably DeSantis, because everybody wants to take a pot shot at him. So it'll be interesting to see how that whole thing is going on. You live to fight another day, and I think that if this debate does not go well for a couple other people, and they can't catch lightning in a bottle, then I think maybe we'll start to see some people start to pull out and say that's it. I'm not going to go any further. It just seems like America is not picking up what I'm putting down, and so we'll do that. We'll just move on. But these debates are, high-profile events that can really change things. And every once in a while, I'm reminded of Ronald Reagan going against Fitzmondale. And that was, of course, a Republican versus Democrat debate. But you can say a thing that so resonates with people, and so catches the imagination that it completely can win you an election, even back in the pre-primary stage of the thing. So we're watching all of that today. I think in addition to that, we'll have Pete Hegseth coming in at 4:35, as he always does on Wednesdays when we're lucky, and he'll have some thoughts about the debate and all of that, and perhaps what's going on in Russia. And then for some reason today, I can't tell you why. I mean, sometimes when you do your prep, you're always surprised. It's not that there is a huge headline, but there are a bunch of stories today about the border and how the situation is devolving. We'll get into that. And I think the other story is Maui. If you have not heard today the story about what's going on in Maui, they're now saying that somewhere between 1,000, maybe even 1,100 people have not been found. The FBI has taken a bunch of different lists and put them together. Yesterday, the number we were being told was somewhere in the neighborhood of 850 people missing, about 115 dead, known dead, but about 850 missing. Now they're saying it's 1,000 or more. And they don't have a lot of information about it, but they're and some of these people that they're looking for. I don't know that we'll at the end of the day there will actually be 1,000 people, because there's always chaos in a situation like this. And eventually you find the person that said, yeah, I didn't have a phone. I lost everything. And there was no way for me to check in. And then those people get checked off the list. Okay, they're fine. But if there's 1,000 that have not been found as yet, and given the nature of this disaster, we could be talking about a real horrible situation on the island of Maui. So that's sort of the layout for today. Right now, 20 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Hey, if you have a desire to add gold or silver to your portfolio, listen up. Nashville Gold and Coin is the place you need to look. If you're looking to buy real, actual, hold it in your hand, gold, silver, or bullion, let me tell you, this is the place I do my business, and it's the place I recommend. You'll get honest, friendly customer service and a real precious metals education. They also specialize in buying, selling, and appraising coins. Do you have any idea how much those old coins you have laying around might be worth? I brought in just a few silver coins I had in a shoebox that had been buried in my sock drawer forever, and it turned out to be worth $1,652. I was shocked. Now, whether you're in the market to purchase precious metals or you just want to find out what those coins in your closet might be worth, schedule a one-on-one consultation today. Very simple. Just go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com.
The leader of the Russian mercenary group, the Wagner Group, allegedly killed in plane crash. Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani turns himself in Atlanta. And crime in Tennessee schools. Those stories and more coming up 3:30. I'm Mac Morey here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, it's a pretty shocking development there in Russia because you had this guy that was in charge of the Wagner Group. Now, you need to understand they were sort of a mercenary force. Independent from the military, they were working, I guess, at the behest of Putin down in Ukraine, and they were brutal. I mean, they were a brutal force, and working sort of outside the regular lines of the Russian military. And then it was, if you may remember, it was a shock, and we were all stunned and amazed when all of a sudden the word came that the Wagner Group was bugging out of Ukraine. And they were headed straight for Moscow, and they got about halfway to Moscow, and then they stopped, and nobody was really clear on what was going on. It was almost as if they were going to go right into the heart of Moscow and try. Maybe there was going to be some kind of mutiny. Well, it appeared for a while as if Putin and Yevgeny Prigozhin, who was the person who is in charge of the Wagner Group, had made up and he had forgiven him for whatever. They came to terms one way or the other, and they were going to be able to coexist. And then this guy Prigozhin gets into what is an Embraer aircraft. If you've ever flown some of these puddle jumpers. Often those small jets are Embraer jets that are made in Brazil. So you have some frame of reference to there were 10 people on board, and it was shot down, it appears, according to all the accounts that are coming from that area, by a Russian surface-to-air missile. In other words, it was an assassination, it would appear. That doesn't happen. Against a civilian aircraft inside Russia. There was nothing that the plane was doing that made it look like it might have been threatening or it could have been a mistake. And in fact, Russian state media is now making it official because, we don't know whether for sure Prigozhin was on that plane because he was on the manifest. But, that sometimes the manifest are not accurate. And so the question was he really on the plane or not? Now there are reports out of official state media in Russia that indeed he was. Yevgeny Prigozhin, the founder of Russia's Wagner Group, who challenged the rule of Vladimir Putin just months ago, was involved Wednesday, according to Fox News, in a plane crash that left 10 people dead just outside of Moscow. The business jet was traveling from the Russian capital to St. Petersburg. It went down in the Tver region, according to TASS. There are pictures. This plane is doing a tailspin, a flat spin all the way into and it crashed into the earth. It was not immediately clear whether Prigozhin was among the 10 reported, but it did appear, according in social media out of Russia, that indeed he was. He was listed among the passengers. An investigation into the crash of the Embraer aircraft has been launched, the department noted. In late June, Prigozhin initiated what observers called the most significant challenge to Russian President Vladimir Putin's regime in 23 years. After marching his 25,000-strong mercenary force to within 125 miles of Moscow, Prigozhin abruptly ended the operation and ordered his troops to return home before heading into exile in Belarus. The reported crash comes just days after Prigozhin posted a new video proclaiming that the Wagner Group Russian mercenary force would make Russia greater and Africa freer. The idea was, apparently, the discussion was that Putin was going to send them down to Russia to do some work where Russian troops are down, and engaged in some kind of conflict. In the video, Prigozhin says the Wagner Group is conducting reconnaissance and search activities, making Russia even greater on all continents and Africa even freer. justice and happiness for African nations, giving hell to ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other bandits, Prigozhin says, noting temperatures there were topping 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Recruiting real warriors and continuing to complete the tasks that have been given and we promise to master, Prigozhin said. So it appears as if, all had been forgiven, but not really when you're talking about Vladimir Putin. So there's nothing that happens inside Russia right now that Putin is not in control. Our president was asked about it, and here is what he had to say.
I don't know for a fact what happened, but I'm not surprised.
Not surprised. Don't know for a fact, that what happened. And then he added,
There's not much that happens when Russia is not behind, but I don't know enough to know the answer. I've been working out for the last hour and a half.
Yeah, he was caught by reporters as he and his wife Jill were, in Lake Tahoe continuing the vacation, and they had just come from their Pilates class. 3:30 now on Super Talk 99.7.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Got a heat advisory in effect until 8 o'clock on Friday. Heat index values could get up to 115 degrees today. Right now, 100 degrees even in Nashville. Traffic and a weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. A business jet en route from Moscow to St. Petersburg has crashed, killing all 10 people on board. Mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin was on the passengers list. The Wagner Group played a key role in Russia's invasion of Ukraine before briefly launching an insurrection against the Russian military in June. Forces loyal to Prigozhin marched towards Moscow before turning back after several days. Karen Travers with the latest from President Biden, who spoke to reporters after working out while on vacation with his family.
President Biden told reporters today in South Lake Tahoe, California, that while he doesn't know for a fact what happened in the plane crash in Russia, he's not surprised to hear it may involve Yevgeny Prigozhin, the leader of the private paramilitary organization, the Wagner Group. Russia's Federal Air Transport Agency says Prigozhin was on the passenger list of the plane that crashed. Asked if Russian President Vladimir Putin was behind the crash, President Biden said,
There's not much that happens when Russia is not behind, but I don't know enough to know the answer. I've been working out for the last hour and a half.
Trump friend and lawyer Rudy Giuliani set to turn himself into the authorities in Georgia today for felony charges of conspiring to overturn the 2020 election results. Aaron Katursky.
His attorneys were spotted leaving the district attorney's office a short while ago with bond in hand. So it seems now that Giuliani knows the terms of the bond, 10% of which he'll have to post. Those have not been made public yet. So at any time now this afternoon, we expect Giuliani to make his way here to the Fulton County Jail, where he and all 19 defendants in this sprawling racketeering case need to present themselves for booking and processing.
And Giuliani later did show up and answer some questions from reporters. He said he believes the case will be dismissed and called it an assault on our Constitution. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Well, how are you faring in this rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand it can be a little scary, but here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and then help you make mid-course corrections if they are needed. I mean, wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you are actually on the right path? Beacon can provide you that reassurance, and it only starts with a simple phone call. That's how easy it is to get started. Just call this number, 615-488-9303. And the experts from Beacon will take it from there. I mean, what do you have to lose except for all the worry? So get started today by calling 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. All the T's have been crossed and all the I's have been dotted. Again, that number is 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon Capital Management stand ready to take your stress away, and learn more at askbeaconnow.com. "38 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. You're listening to The Drive on this 23rd day of August, and it's a scorcher out there. We got temperatures around 100 degrees in Nashville, and the feel-like temperature is well above that. So you really have got to take it easy out there. Make sure that, I hate to do this because everybody knows what they're supposed to do. Stay cool. Stay indoors if you can. Drink a lot of water if you have to be outdoors. Take a lot of breaks if you're out there sweltering in the heat. And I don't swelter well. I don't like to swelter.
Yeah, it's not on my top things to do.
It's there's nothing worse than sweltering, and so just take it a step easy today. Be easy on yourself, okay? Because it is just rough out there. Looking at the situation in Maui, it has gotten increasingly grim. Boy, I'm telling you, it was already grim. When you see the pictures, you knew that this probably was going to be the case. Because that island is just one big pile of soot and ash. There are portions of that island. The vast majority of that island has just been rendered nothing but gray, ash, and soot, and buildings just been destroyed. Lives have been lost. Cars, you just see them just burned out shells on the highway as people were trying to escape. And we now know, and this is going to be really hard to get all of this put together. We now know that there are about 115 people who are dead, but the large death toll is expected to go much, much higher. And when you hear this, you'll go, wow, that's a lot. The list of possible unaccounted for after the Maui fire now is somewhere between 1,000 to 1,100. Now, this is something that's been going on for like 13, 14 days. So, would think that by now they would have had a chance to go through and do a lot of searching and figure out where people are and check a lot of people off the list. But I'm sure some of that is happening, but a lot of people, I don't think we're going to find. We're not going to find anything except their ashy remains. And so here we go. This is from NBC News. The numbers are expected to change, and that doesn't mean necessarily these people are in fact missing, says the FBI special agent, but it could go as high as 1,000 to 1,100. Every day the numbers will change. That being said, the number that we're most concerned about is obviously trying to clear people from the list, and that has reliably gone down every day. But when they put all the lists together, they found out that there's a lot more than 850. The Wind-Whipped wildfire on August 8th, so we're now talking, this is the 23rd, devastated the town of Lahaina in West Maui. Other fires erupted on the island. The list of between 1,000 and 1,100 names are people who have been reported as missing or unaccounted for. We're considering everybody on that list until we can prove they shouldn't be on that list. Some of the information is incomplete. In fact, officials say they only have a first name or that they may not have a gender. Maui County Mayor Richard Bisson said that can make it really hard to verify who is missing. 2 days ago, Bisson said the number was 850. But the FBI has reconciled various lists of the unaccounted for, and this was the first firm number that authorities have provided since the fire swept through. In a news conference last week, authorities said it was likely more than 1,000, but they were not very specific. So, again, that officially, the list will be officially released by the FBI later this week. They may be able to winnow down the list, but between now and then, we can hope for a good outcome there. But, I think we should be prepared for the fact that this is a true disaster that took the President of the United States 13 days to get there. 13 days before he decided he would go to Maui because, he didn't want to interrupt his vacation. And when he got there, he told some wild story about a fire that nearly killed his...
I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat.
Which, of course, fell pretty flat on people who've lost everything. This story, wow. It makes you wonder that when things really go south, just remember this story, okay? From thehill.com. Maui residents who disobeyed barricade survived the fires. Those who disobeyed the barricaded road closures during the Maui fires survived the disaster, while many of those who heeded orders to turn around perished in their cars and homes with no way out. This according to the Associated Press. At least 114 people were killed. The FBI, as I told you, said maybe 1,100. Officials are facing increased scrutiny for the emergency response, including why the emergency sirens were not set off and whether closing the roads prevented people from getting to safety. In the early hours of the Maui fires, there were more than 30 power poles that downed alongside a certain highway on the south end of Lahaina, a historic town that was decimated by the fires. And decimated is the wrong word here, but it destroyed in the fires earlier this month. Officials closed the Lahaina bypass road due to the fires, blocking the only way out of Lahaina to the southern part of the island. Maui Police Chief John Pelletier said during a news conference that officers never stopped people from leaving the area, but the AP report suggests that residents were discouraged from disobeying the barricade. One family swerved around the barricade set up to escape the flames, while another took a dirt road uphill to climb above the fire, according to the AP. However, many others who stayed in their cars on that road were stuck in a gridlock with fires surrounding them on most sides, with the ocean on the remaining side. Wow. Nate Baird and Courtney Stapleton recounted their experience to the Associated Press, saying that they loaded up their car with their two sons and their dog. When they turned south to escape Lahaina, they were met with cones and told to turn around to Lahaina, which was already on fire. Instead of turning around, I admire this. They swerved past the cones and took off. Nobody realized how little time we really had. Like even us being from the heart of the fire, we did not comprehend. We literally had minutes, and one wrong turn, we would all be dead right now. Baird told the reporter if they had 10 more minutes, they could have saved children who were left home alone in the neighborhood during the fires. So the kids just don't have a filter, so their son ran up and was just telling our son, this kid is dead, and it's like all my son's friends that they come to the house every day and their parents were at work and they were at home alone and nobody had a warning, nobody knew. It sounds like a hellish experience. The gridlock would have left us where the firestorm came. I would have to tell my children to jump into the ocean and be boiled alive by the flames, or we would have just died from smoke inhalation or roasted in the car. You know what? When everything goes south and chaos is everything is all around you, you've just got to do what you've got to do. Okay, so what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to get ticketed or charged later? You know what? I'll take my chances. I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried out by 6, right? And so, to me, you just can't count on government to, in a real chaotic situation, to have it all under control. You've got to do what you've got to do. It's every man for himself, every family for themselves. And it would appear that a lot of people just decided, if those that obeyed the government may have lost their lives. Those who disobeyed the government and went around the cones and went around the barricades and they just hit it, survived. There's so much. We're going to hear stories like this every day out of Maui because it happened so fast and it happened so quick and the destruction was so complete that I just think that we're going to hear a lot more stories about people who, how the amazing stories of how they survived and the really tragic story of those who could not escape the flames in time. And how did the government fail to turn on the sirens? How did the government fail to do this, that, or the other? There's going to be a lot of inquiries about that. But, there needs to be. There needs to be, given the fact that we may have as many as 1,100 people dead. 49 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I recently did a workshop talking about some of the missteps of the investing industry, some of the biggest mutual fund companies out there. You probably recognize these names: Fidelity, Vanguard, Raymond James, Edward Jones, actually using data and information from their own websites as I walk through this. Now, one of the things I was talking about is diversification and how investors could be in for a rude awakening at the amount of risk that they actually have in their portfolios, and they don't even realize it. Now, the example I like to use to help people understand why do these huge companies do this? I mean, these are big companies. And you go, well, why? Well, think about the diet industry. In the diet industry, you had things like this: fat-free this, fat-free that, fat-free that. And what happened is they did a study. They were looking at diabetes in children. And what they found was that when they went fat-free, they actually ended up with more diabetes rather than less, because what they substituted for fat was sugar. Now, what happens in the mutual fund industry, they tend to keep costs low by investing in very narrow areas of the market that are inexpensive to manage. So what happens is the investor ends up with more risk than they think that they've got. Now, why do they do that? Because you are actually attracted by low costs. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't use these big mutual fund companies. It just means that you have to be eyes wide open. As an investment firm, we help people sidestep these things because sometimes you have no choice. You have a 401k, you're dealing with these fund companies, and you can't go anywhere else. So what we do is we help you go around these landmines. To set up an initial 15-minute phone call, go to our website, paulwinkler.com, or you can just scan the QR code right here. We look forward to talking with you.
Leader of Wagner Group allegedly dies in plane crash. An all clear given after a bomb threat in Franklin, Tennessee. Rudy Giuliani speaks to press outside of the Fulton County Courthouse, and some news concerning Tennessee's special session. Those stories and more coming up at 4. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
We haven't really talked about it, but it is true that there has been a very, and I mean very, very slight uptick in COVID cases. And so people are on alert. Will there be another shutdown if there's another pandemic, or if another round of COVID comes along for which the vaccinations don't really work? A lot of people are concerned about that and are listening with great interest to this interview with Anthony Fauci. That's about a week old. He was speaking on remote to Wayne University. Here's what he said about the importance of lockdowns.
You have to have a reason to lock down. For example, in New York City, when Elmhurst Hospital was overrun and they were having cooler trucks outside because they had no places to put the bodies, you had to have something to immediately shut down the tsunami of infection. That lockdown was absolutely justified. The real critical question is, what do you do during the lockdown? And when do you stop locking down? Mm-hmm. So lockdown has a purpose. One of the purposes, if you don't have a vaccine, it's to get more ventilators, get the hospitals better prepared, get more people involved in the healthcare sector to do it until you decompress the pressure on the hospitals, then you could open up. If you have a vaccine available, you might want to lock down temporarily so you can get everybody vaccinated. That was, I think, one of the problems in China. They locked down for a long time, but they didn't effectively vaccinate all of their older people. So when they opened up again, all of the elderly, not all, but many of the elderly people got infected. So lockdowns with a purpose work. It saves lives.
Yeah, I listen, I don't think Americans are going to go for that again, just between you and me, no matter what the government says. I mean, it's sort of like the Maui thing. Sometimes the government, you need to listen to them, and sometimes maybe you are well within your rights to have a different opinion, given the emotional, financial, social, and educational toll that the last lockdowns took on us. It might be a time to reconsider all of that. And again, I'm not at all suggesting that it's on the horizon, but a lot of people have been watching that soundbite and making some concerned comments about what might be on the horizon. I think whatever's on the horizon will be responded to in a much different way than it was in the first time, if it does, rear its ugly head, like Anthony Fauci just reared his. Well, let's take a look at what's going on in the market right now. The Dow Jones Industrial was up 184 points. S&P was up 48. NASDAQ was up 215. So all screens are green. But right now, the market and economists are looking very closely at one particular stock as it's about to have its earnings report. Standing by is John Maxon from Beacon Capital Management to talk about that. Hello, John.
Hey, Brian. Yeah, a couple of things in the market today. Some labor information that the labor market may not be as high as expected to support the market, but the big story is NVIDIA, which is a well-known tech company and produces chips for the gaming industry and data centers, and also is really heavily involved in artificial intelligence. They reported their earnings right after the bell today, and they actually forecast revenue from the first quarter to grow from $7 to $11 billion, so a massive move. They actually reported that after the market, $13.5 billion in revenue and a $25 billion share buyback. So a lot of excitement about that in the market today, but all the attention now turns towards the Fed speaking at Jackson Hole on Friday and about rates. It's going to be big.
All right. Thank you very much, John. Learn more about all the things they can do for you over at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 59 minutes now past the hour.
It's 4:01. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 100 degrees, and that heat is not going anywhere this whole week. Got a heat advisory in effect until 8 p.m. on Friday. Complete weather and traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. The Russian billionaire who challenged Vladimir Putin's power with an armed uprising less than 2 months ago is said to be among the 10 people on board a private jet that crashed outside Moscow today. The small jet belonged to a Wagner mercenary group leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin. And while it wasn't immediately clear if Prigozhin was on board, Russian aviation authorities said his name was on the manifest. Tom Sufi Burge says Prigozhin had been a Putin ally for decades, but things changed in June.
President Putin went on TV and said that the Wagner Group, he didn't name Prigozhin at the time personally, but he said the Wagner Group were traitors. Then there was a kind of backroom deal reportedly. We think that Putin, the Kremlin, cut a deal with Wagner and Prigozhin. Then we got reports that Prigozhin had gone off to Belarus. We last saw him popping up in Africa, in Mali. Now we're getting this incident. It appears at the moment that Prigozhin might have met a horrible death.
Back here in Tennessee, Franklin police have now given the all clear after a bomb threat at Twice Daily on Carruthers Parkway this morning. The Tennessee Highway Patrol's bomb squad determined that there was no threat and some surrounding streets were closed for some time. They're now all back open. Out on bail, former Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani spoke to reporters this afternoon after being booked into jail in Fulton County, Georgia, as a co-conspirator in the election interference case against Donald Trump. Giuliani criticized Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis and once again predicted the case will be dismissed.
She has violated people's First Amendment right to advocate the government, to petition the government for grievances, like an election they believe was poorly conducted or falsely conducted. People have a right to believe that in America.
And Giuliani called it an assault on our Constitution. Some news about the special session on public safety here in Tennessee. News 2 reports that a judge has temporarily blocked the no sign rule inside the House chamber and committee meetings. The ACLU filed a lawsuit claiming the rule violates free speech rights and comes after the removal of 3 protesters from a House committee meeting yesterday for violating that rule. The rule is a part of a rules package adopted by the House specifically for the special session that includes a provision that states you cannot take voice or noise amplification devices, flags, signs, or banners in the galleries of the House of Representatives. And National Cinema Day, it's the second annual holiday coming up on this Sunday, celebrating something so many enjoy every day, movies. Multiple locations in Nashville and Tennessee will be celebrating by providing tickets costing no more than $4. You can find which theaters are participating near you at nationalcinemaday.org. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
It is 8 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 on this 23rd day of August, a scorcher. Temperatures around 100 degrees and the feel-like temperature well above that. It is a day to take it easy in the heat, but you know that because you're smart, you're alert, cunning, and sly. And how do I know that? Because you're listening to this program. Because, we don't have dumb people who listen to this program. Everybody listening to this program, they're sharp as a tack. So they know this stuff. They have common sense, which is, is not all that common. But anyway, they really do take it easy out there. It is just unbearable. I just made a walk down to the garden to take a break. And it's just like walking into a wall of humidity. Man, I'm telling you, it is something. But we'll survive it. It is August, and that's to be expected. Boy, there's so much going on. If you are joining us now, a couple of things that have happened. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I just want to mention it, is that huge story out of Russia where the man who was in charge of the Wagner Group, Prigozhin, I think is his name, he apparently has been assassinated by Vladimir Putin. I mean, I don't want to put it too strongly, but he got on a plane in Moscow and was headed, I think, for St. Petersburg. He and Putin had apparently made up at some point after what some people thought looked like a mutiny was about to take place of Putin. But apparently they had made up, we thought. He gets on a jet aircraft and is flying to St. Petersburg, and the plane is shot down by a surface-to-air missile, a Russian surface-to-air missile. And the plane does a flat spin all the way into the ground. All 10 people aboard are killed. Prigozhin name was on the manifest. It is not 1,000% certain that he died in that crash, but it certainly looks that way, and Russia's state media is now saying that he is dead. So, that's where we are right now. And look, what is this all about? The president was asked by reporters in Lake Tahoe, where he continues to his vacation, about it. He said this.
I don't know for a fact what happened, but I'm not surprised.
No, I don't know what happened, but I'm not surprised. And then went on to add very, very quickly that he had been working out and did not have a lot of details.
There's not much that happens when Russia is not behind, but I don't know enough to know the answer. I've been working out for the last hour and a half.
Yeah, he was in a Pilates class. I'll leave that without commentary, as I should. So I wanted to bring you up to date on that breaking story. And let's see, I think the big story otherwise here in America today is that we are going to see either 7 or 8 members who have made the cut on the debate stage in Milwaukee, where there will be a debate. Donald Trump will not be there. More on that in a moment. I say either 7 or 8 because Burgum, the governor of North Dakota, who did get clearance to be on the stage, he made hit all the check marks to make it to the stage, was, we are told, pretty seriously injured in a pickup basketball game with his staff in Milwaukee. Yeah, I guess they decided, let's go out and shoot some hoops and take a little break. 67-year-old Burgum did not survive that very well and ended up being rushed to the hospital with what we're told were pretty serious injuries. I don't know what happened. We don't really know what happened. Did he take an elbow? Did he fall flat on his face? Did he suffer, some kind of cardiac? We just don't know what it is. But there's a question mark as to whether he will be able to stand. And I think the debate rules require that you have to stand at the podium for the entire debate. So one way or the other, Burgum may or may not be there. So it's either 7 or 8. And no indication that the people at Fox know, except that they've been talking all day as if he will be there. But I don't know that they really know. And as I tell you, I've had the privilege of working backstage and working behind the scenes at several big Fox debates, actually. And it's an interesting procedure that goes on there. And Brett Baer and Martha McCallum I have one little story about Martha McCallum, who I just adore. See, she's great. I remember when Fox, I was there from at year 2 through year 14, and they were just, they'd gotten their first debate, and Brit Hume was going to be one of the moderators, and they were trying to figure out, for election coverage, who should they turn to, because they wanted a man and a woman, and they were very much apparently up in the air about who they would turn to at that time. And I was talking to Britt about it, and he said, we're trying to figure this out. And I said, I don't know anything about her. I just watch her on the air, and I think she's pretty good. You might think about that Martha McCallum. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but she's been doing it ever since. And she was chosen then, and she continues to do it, and do it well. So they'll be there. They're backstage right now. They've got their 3x5 cards. They're working to hone down the language and making sure that one person doesn't ask a question that the other wanted to ask, and coordinating and getting all their planning going. And that's going on right now. And, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But again, it is not the guy who really has all the juice right now is not going to be there. It will be 7 or 8 of the also-rans. Trump is actually already recorded an interview with Tucker Carlson, which is going to be released just as the debate begins. Now, Trump has been feuding with Fox. He's mad at Fox. He feels like they're not giving him a straight break. He's angry. He talks about how they're using ugly pictures of him, and that they don't talk about the polls where that he thinks they should be talking about. He's very irritated with them and feels like he doesn't want to cooperate with them. So he is counter-programming against Fox with Tucker Carlson, who Fox recently fired. So, I mean, if you're gonna stick it to Fox, what better way? Because everybody wanted him there. I mean, Fox wanted him there so badly because it means their numbers will be higher. And he just decided he's not going to do that. And what better way, if you're angry with Fox, than to stick it to Fox by doing an interview with a guy who they just recently fired. So that is happening as well. The former President Trump sit down with ex-Fox News host Tucker Carlson will be released Wednesday night. That's tonight, just as the Republican presidential primary debate is set to begin on the network. Former president wrote on Truth Social that his interview with Carlson was taped several days ago, will air at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. Middle Tennessee time. The primary debate, featuring 8 or maybe 7 of Trump's GOP rivals, scheduled to air from 9 to 11 on Fox News. Sparks will fly, Trump wrote, teasing the interview on X, which will reportedly stream on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. Trump opted to skip the debate, citing his significant lead in many national and state polls over other primary candidates. True, he's 30, 40 points ahead of everybody, depending on which poll you look at. The former president had for months questioned why he should subject himself to attacks from the other candidates who he leads by wide margins. So instead, Trump was sat down with Carlson, and the interview is not live. The decision to air it right as the debate begins is both a way for Trump to distract from what could be a pivotal moment for his rivals, and yet another slight to Fox News, a network that Trump has had a love-hate relationship with for many, many years. I think that's a very, very accurate assessment of what's going on. Here's Breitbart. Sparks will fly. Former President Donald Trump teased on Truth Social ahead of the Republican debate, previewing this interview with Tucker Carlson, which drops, as we said, at the same time as the debate. He is right, I think, to not be there, quite frankly. If he's there, he is the target of all of the also-rans. And if you have that much of a lead, why not just, and everybody knows, there's nobody who doesn't know what Donald Trump is or what he stands for at this point. Is there really? I mean, we know him pretty well. So it would be sort of just a big waste of time I think for him to go and be on that debate stage, and it would not, everybody would be after him. Everybody would be taking pot shots. It would be for him. If I were him, I would say it's sort of like being nibbled to death by ducks, and no, because nobody has the juice that he has in this race right now on the Republican side of the equation. This is interesting. Tells you exactly where Republican voters are, including many of you within the sound of my voice right now. I'm certain of it. From the Washington Examiner, most Republican voters would not be deterred from voting for former President Donald Trump in 2024 if he is convicted or even imprisoned, according to a new poll released as candidates gather for the debate. The former president will not attend the debate. Trump will surrender for jail in Georgia tomorrow. That's also, by the way, another way to stick it to Fox because, the debate may be happening tonight, but a large number of Americans will not watch the debate, but will learn everything that they learn about the debate and what happened there by looking at the highlight reel that will play out on Thursday. But on Thursday, the story is going to be Trump going to Georgia to be booked on these charges. The charges have only galvanized Trump's base of support as Republicans, allies, and rivals alike denounce what they see as the weaponization of the justice system against him. 64% of Republicans would be very or somewhat willing to cast their vote for Trump in the primary should he be convicted, Morning Consult found in a poll released today. The numbers fall slightly to 60% if he is imprisoned and is virtually unchanged for the general election. The survey was taken out of 809 possible Republican primary voters. I mean, I think that's true. People look at this and they feel like he's being treated unfairly. They feel like, the system is slanted against him, and they're just simply happy to vote for him no matter what happens because they don't feel like the process and the things that are being leveled against him are fair. And I have to agree. There's a lot of things that are out there that just seems to be, very, very much an attempt to try to take Trump down by the Democrats for political reasons because he's the guy that is probably going to survive this process, and they want to take their shots through the legal system, even if it's unfair and there's a two-tiered system of justice. In a moment, what's going on with Joe Biden and the investigation of Hunter Biden? I'll get to that after we take a break. 20 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. The Nashville Armory Ranges, 2 locations for your convenience. First, the Nashville Armory, 4290 Killawood Drive in Nashville. Over 15,000 square feet, which combines retail, classrooms, and, of course, pistol and rifle-rated ranges, so you can learn to become proficient and then just stay that way. The second location, the Franklin Range at 390 Southwinds Drive. There you'll find 10 state-of-the-art shooting ranges equipped with automated target control and custom shooting stalls that provide a virtually private shooting experience. And let's talk about the folks who work there. They pride themselves on hiring folks who have the expertise to advise even the most experienced shooters, but they have the patience to guide those who are new to the 2A world. So you're not going to run into a bunch of attitude like you do in some places. You're not going to be pressured into doing something you don't want to do. Gunsmithing back at the Nashville Range. You're buying your first gun or adding to the collection. You'll find a wide selection of new and pre-owned firearms, suppressors, optics, apparel, shooting accessories. It's a place to buy. It's a place to train. It's a place to really become a very good shot. So learn more by going to armoryranges.com, and please let them know that your friend and radio buddy sent you.
President Biden comments on the reported death of Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin, a gun found inside of a student's backpack today at a Tennessee school. And today's Money News. Those stories and more coming up 30 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey right here, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
How you doing out there? 26 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air. We are glad that you are with us. We appreciate so much that you find merit with what we do and that you listen to this program each and every day. Thank you for that. If I don't say it enough, I want you to know how much I do appreciate that. We're talking about, we talked a moment ago about what's happening on in Trump world, and, he's going to be going to Georgia to go through this booking process. There's a question of, I think Rudy Giuliani went today. Mac Morey, am I correct? Rudy Giuliani did have a mugshot taken, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And the question has been, will they do that for Trump? Because I think in the other instances, it normally would have been the normal course of action, but somehow the Secret Service was able to get in there, and because he still has Secret Service coverage, and sort of negate that as something that might happen. I don't know, but it'll be something to watch tomorrow, and of course, it'll be a full-on media circus and dog and pony show as that all happens tomorrow. But what's going on with Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and that whole investigation? From justthenews.com, Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy, says that the House may well launch a Biden impeachment inquiry when Congress comes back from the August recess. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy suggested on Tuesday the House of Representatives could launch an impeachment inquiry in the near future if the Biden administration does not provide lawmakers with a whole host of requested documents. The California lawmaker suggested that should the administration stall House investigations into the first family's business dealings, the House would resort to an impeachment inquiry. That gives them some supercharged investigatory powers if they do that. And he's really worried. I think what they're worried about is now that you have Weiss as not only the person doing the investigation of Hunter Biden, but also apparently now special counsel status. The question is, will they use that and say, well, we can't provide that for you because there's an ongoing investigation? The California lawmaker said that if they try to pull that number on everybody, if the thing holds up, whether we do an impeachment inquiry, is if they provide us the documents we're asking for. If they provide us the documents, there would not be a need for an impeachment inquiry, McCarthy told Larry Kudlow on Fox Business. But if they start to withhold documents and fight like they have now to not provide the American public what they deserve to know, we will move forward with an impeachment inquiry when we come back on session. Myriad House leaders have requested materials to further their inquiries into the first family and the administration's alleged weaponization of the federal government. McCarthy did not specify what documents he was referring to, but he did, however, tout the lower chambers. That's lower chambers. The people in the House hate that. That's what some people call the House of Representatives, lower chambers, to shed light on allegations against the Biden family. The only reason you know of all this information is because we took the majority and we're holding the administration accountable. It is appalling what we have learned. It is different from what President Joe Biden has told us. The only stories that have not changed are from the whistleblowers from the IRS. Their story has held up time and time again. If the Biden administration continues to fight to withhold information that could really clear this all up, we would have to move to an impeachment inquiry. McCarthy went on to liken the Biden administration and the use of federal office for alleged illicit means to the administration of Richard Nixon. I've said for days, for weeks, months, this is Watergate in its scope. This is Watergate-like in its scope and its depth. I think they probably will begin an impeachment inquiry because it seems very clear to me that everything that has happened with the special counsel is really a move to try to thwart any effort by the House investigative bodies to get any more information. They're going to try to use this to stymie the Republican investigation. So I say, let's move on. Let's get the impeachment inquiry going. We'll know more when they return after the end of the month. It is 30 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 99 degrees in Nashville. Heat advisory in effect until Friday at 8 o'clock. Full weather forecast. Latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. The White House says the president has been briefed on the crash of a Russian private jet belonging to Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin. A spokesperson for President Biden saying, quote, if confirmed, no one should be surprised, end quote. Russian authorities say all 10 people aboard were killed when the small jet went down today after taking off from Moscow. Tom Sufi Burridge in Kyiv, where he tells us what it could signify.
Telegram channels on social media allied to Prigozhin are alleging that it was Russian air defense that shot the plane down. We cannot confirm that. There's no official comment on that. There is other reports in the Russian media saying that it was a terrorist incident, that the plane came down very quickly because of that. But it is clearly a hugely dramatic incident, not only for events inside Russia, but also for the war here in Ukraine.
And President Biden has commented saying that, quote, not much that happens in Russia that Putin's not behind. He also added that he didn't know enough to know the answer and that he had been working out for the last hour and a half. Right now in Tennessee, Channel 4 says that a loaded handgun was taken from a student's backpack today. This was at Kenwood High School. An SRO had to break up an altercation between 3 students and then went on to search one of those kids' backpacks and found the firearm along with 2 loaded magazines. Officials say no threats were made. And now over to the money news. Daria Albinger walks us through Wall Street.
What a difference a day makes. The markets rallied for their best session since June. The Dow jumped 185 points. It had been up more than 240. The Nasdaq soared 215 points, and the S&P closed up 49. Pressure, which has built up on stocks from the bond markets, relaxed a bit with a jump in big tech and some upbeat earnings. Apple was up 2.2%. Microsoft rose 1.7%. Nvidia reported its latest earnings after the bell, and they may be the most anticipated among investors so far this year. The chipmaker, which is considered a leader in artificial intelligence computing, posted second quarter numbers that solidly beat analysts' expectations. Nvidia stock was up more than 5% in after-hours trading. With mortgage rates rising and median home prices now well over $400,000, new homeowners are thinking small. The Wall Street Journal says rising costs have buyers cutting back on things like dining rooms or bathtubs.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Let's talk about T. King Insurance and Associates in Brentwood. Been around for some 25 years as an independent agency. Now, there are some things to really like about an independent agency. First of all, they're going to give you better service. Let me give you just an example. This is an amazing example. If you call this number, 615-329-8121, that's 615-329-8121, you're not going to reach a call center. You're not going to reach a recording that says that your call is important to you and please stand by. No, you're going to an actual person is going to answer that phone and begin to help you. I mean, that's the kind of difference when you're talking about an independent agency versus, some insurance thing that you get on the internet, right? You're just a number to those folks. And then the other thing is, because they're independent, they can shop around. They're not just going to try to take whatever they've got and sort of, make it a square peg in a round hole. No, they're gonna find the insurance policy that that meets your needs, and that's what you want. You want something that gives you the most bang for your buck, and that's what they're good at finding. So listen, if you're thinking about looking at different insurance and you want to bundle some stuff up, just get all your insurance together, all your information together, and then log on to tkinginsurance.com. That's tkinginsurance.com. Get your royal review. King Insurance and Associates. You get royal treatment and really great rates. It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Hey, listen, it's Wednesday, and at about this time on Wednesdays, when we're lucky, we get to talk to Pete Hegseth, who is he's on Fox and Friend Weekends as one of the hosts there, and also when he's not there, he's a resident of our own Sumner County, and we're glad to have him in the area. Hey, good afternoon to you, Pete. Everything going all right for you on this hot August afternoon?
Yes, it is hot, although it's also hot in Milwaukee. I'm here for the debate going on tonight, so I'm part of the coverage here for Fox, and we're about ready to go. Yep.
Well, tell me a little bit about, I have been backstage for some of these planning sessions, and, to try to give people a little idea of how much work goes in to doing one of these debates.
Oh, it's massive. I mean, the production of Fox comes down, takes over the whole Milwaukee Bucks arena, transforms it. I think there's going to be an arena feel tonight. There's going to be 4,000 or 5,000 people in there. And the amount of planning that goes into, listen, you want to be above board with all the campaigns. They're all treated fairly. They all get the same information. They're all comfortable with the format. And so a lot of that is the last couple of days with them. And then it's just the circus around it. Of course, Donald Trump's not going to be here, but he'll be here because he'll be the center of the discussion, whether he's here or not. And otherwise, it does give the other candidates an opportunity to articulate. I don't think any of them will be the nominee. That's my candid view. It's a big night for Ron DeSantis. Either he makes it or breaks it tonight, I think, because he's been slipping and he's got to show something. But it'll be a first-class production, no doubt. And I'm hosting the Fox Nation portion. So in the commercial breaks, if you want some instant analysis, go to Fox Nation. We'll be there debating and discussing it, and then the after show as well.
That's very cool. So I think you're right about DeSantis. I mean, he was always the guy who was right behind Trump, although way behind him by sometimes 30 or 40 points. And his numbers have started to soften somewhat. And the way I read it, the person who has been picking up where DeSantis is losing has been Ramaswamy. So do you think that DeSantis has a target on his back tonight?
Oh, for sure. And so does Ramaswamy. So does Vivek Ramaswamy. He's drafted off of kind to say, I'm a younger 2.0 Trump, right? Outsider, businessman, willing to take unconventional positions, and that has helped him. And I think people will start digging more into his background and taking him to task, but I don't think the whole you're too young thing is going to work. You can be too cute by half on a stage, too, attacking a guy who's gained some popularity by standing for more establishment positions. And for DeSantis, I mean, the highest day of his numbers was the day he announced. And then it was, they said, wait until he announces, then he'll really bump. And then they'll say, wait till he raises money and gets on TV, then he'll really bump. And he's only gone the other way. So, Trump's done a great job boxing him in just tactically by saying, be likable, Ron, where's the personality? And so if you're him and you're entering the debate stage, you don't want to be overly scripted, remember those Rubio moments with Chris Christie where he said, there you go again, 15-second talking point. So he's going to have to be natural and deliver tonight if he hopes to have any chance going into Iowa and New Hampshire.
Well, you mentioned that Trump won't be there, but do you think that the people from that debate stage will be taking swipes at Trump? Or that wouldn't be necessarily, I think, the right tactic. What's your sense?
No. Well, there's going to be one kamikaze drone on there, and that's Chris Christie. He's just decided he's going to.
It's exactly what I said earlier, right?
That's what he is, and he knows it, and he'll get a big contract somewhere to talk about politics for 4 or 5 more years, and that's the role he knows he plays. Watching Pence will be interesting. He's gotten more and more sort of negative about Trump, but dissing Trump in front of the RNC on Fox News is not a good plan if you want to be the nominee. And so that's Asa Hutchinson too. That's Pence. But, guys like Tim Scott and so far Nikki Haley and Vivek, they haven't. So I think there'll be a lot of love for Trump tonight. The question is, how do you give him love without trying to count on his indictments bringing him down and almost looking complicit in your campaign strategy?
All right. So just one other thing. We've been reading that Burgum has a torn Achilles tendon and may or may not be on the stage because the rules require that you stand, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I just saw footage of him in the spin room, which is where I'll be hosting tonight, on crutches. And I thought he made the right comparison. He said, we've got first responders and police officers and military members who play hurt and push through pain. And if I can't stand on the stage and do this, then I don't deserve to be president. So it looks like he'll give it a go. But for people who've had torn Achilles, I've never had it, but I've been told it's excruciating. Painful, yeah. So we'll see if he can make it through it. Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you this, because that at a debate, in a debate situation, sometimes lightning strikes, and things really just. Somebody says the thing that just captures everybody's imagination. It gets played endlessly, almost on a loop the next day. And that's always a possibility. So do you think that people will be looking to make that memorable statement, or as is often the case in the first debates, everybody just goes out there and tries not to mess up?
That's a great question. It's the first question I'm going to pose to our panel too, is tonight going to be everyone's mostly soft intro, or will they really start going at each other in the first debate? And there's been some indications that Nikki Haley may go at Vivek for foreign policy. It doesn't feel like there's a boiling point yet amongst these candidates. If Trump had been here, I think you'd see a lot more of that. But in his absence, I think a lot of them will try to take an opportunity to introduce themselves. Tim Scott's a happy warrior type. He's not going at anybody else. You're not going to increase enough in the polls by bringing someone else down who's also at 4%. And I'm going to take your 4% and add it to my 6, and I'm going to win with that. You better create a gravitational pull toward you. So I think mostly it's an introduction. But when you get to topics like Trump's indictments, and I mean, there will be disagreement, and what happens there will mean a lot.
Tomorrow, Trump will go to Georgia, and this is going to be apparently a little different than some of the other times where he's had to go and be booked and arraigned. I mean, there may well be a mugshot. There apparently was a mugshot of Rudy Giuliani today as he went down there and went through that process that Trump's going to go through tomorrow. Again, if I'm looking at these numbers and I'm reading them correctly, Trump is right. Every single time something like this happens, his numbers tend to go up. If you looked at the CBS poll that came out a few days ago, it's shocking how strong Trump's numbers are among Republican voters.
There's been nothing like it, and no one's been able to overcome a lead like that in modern presidential history. Mm-hmm. That's why. And when he is able to run against the wind and cut against the grain, things that would hurt any other conventional politician only strengthen him. I mean, he planned to. It's smart politically. Like he said, I'm going to turn myself in on Thursday, so that's all that cable news is talking about on Thursday, even though there was a big debate on Wednesday. I mean, this is a guy who's smart about it and knows that everyone coming after him only strengthens him. So you play. I don't think they're going to do a mugshot because the reason why is they don't want to give it to Trump. They don't want to give him the campaign T-shirt and the flag of the mugshot and the rallying cry. But you
may be right.
Listen, it's going to be a zoo, Brian, for the next. Think about this. We're going through a presidential cycle with 4 indictments, and they want to lock him up. I mean, get ready.
Yeah, I mean, I keep looking at, the pathway to Election Day, and everything that I see, both on the investigation that the House is doing on Joe Biden, and the things that Trump is going to have to go through during that time period. We've never seen anything quite like it. I think in a presidential campaign in modern history ever, have we? I can't think of anything that even comes close to comparing.
There's no roadmap. No,
we're making it up as we go along here. Yeah.
It used to be that impeachments were, monumentous moments, and then they threw away 2 of them at Trump, and now they've indicted him 4 times. We have jumped the shark. And that's why anyone who can tell you how this will play out, they can't. I just think that if past is prologue, the support for Trump isn't going anywhere, and there's not a lot of love for people banking on voting for other candidates who are counting on the system choosing their candidate, and that strengthens Trump. And but when you get to the conventions and you get to the debates, and if he's close to a court date and it's in the hands of a jury, how does that play out? And then if he is actually indicted, we can't know. I mean, you could conceive of a presidential campaign from jail, which would only rally even more Americans to the injustice, especially considering Joe Biden and what he's going through. There'll be an impeachment there, I predict, before this term is over.
Well, like Kevin McCarthy was talking about beginning the impeachment inquiry process, if he can't get, the kind of documents from the government that he's hoping to get, and I think that since they have Weiss as a special counsel, I think that they will try to say, you can't have that document. We have an investigation, and you're getting in the middle of that. So that pushes them into, I think, the impeachment inquiry, which sort of gives them supercharged powers to investigate. I think that's going to happen. I think you're right. Well, listen, one other thing. I know your head's in debate prep and all of that, but another big breaking story today has been that Prigozhin has been apparently shot out of the sky by Vladimir Putin's surface-to-air missiles. Any thoughts on that?
It's one of those headlines you read and you say, saw that coming. It was just a matter of when, right? I mean, how do you go against the dictator of a country but it always was so cloaked in mystery. Like, he stood down and then he was in Belarus, and is he in, is he out? But planes like that, for a guy like that, they don't go down by accident, Brian. And so he was a political liability, an opponent for Putin, and that's how they deal with those things.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly the way that it's brutal politics the Russian style and Putin style, it seems.
Yes.
Well, listen, have a great time. These debates are always a lot of fun. I know you're going to enjoy it. We'll catch up with you next Wednesday.
You got it. Thanks, Brian.
All right, 50 minutes now, past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. If you're in the market for a pole barn, the two brothers that run Stoltzko are the guys you need to talk to. Exceptional quality, craftsmanship, fair prices. They can build your new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind. I am very sorry. That's the Stoltzko difference. You can use a pole barn for all kinds of things. It can function as a classic tool and a work barn, a garage, or even a place to live. Flexibility is the key. They combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They don't scrimp on quality. They don't cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. Now, you should go to their website. I'm going to give it to you. Ready? Listen closely. Stoltzco, Stoltzco, Stoltzco.com. And you're going to see examples of the kinds of things that they have built. And it's really, really something. And then you might want to give them a call, 615-622-5992. Stoltzco, where quality workmanship and great customer service is affordable. Go to Stoltzco.com. That's Stoltzco.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I recently did a workshop talking about some of the missteps of the investing industry, some of the biggest mutual fund companies out there. You probably recognize these names: Fidelity, Vanguard, Raymond James, Edward Jones, actually using data and information from their own websites as I walk through this. Now, one of the things I was talking about is diversification and how investors could be in for a rude awakening at the amount of risk that they actually have in their portfolios, and they don't even realize it. Now, the example I like to use to help people understand why why do these huge companies do this? I mean, these are big companies. And you go, well, why? Well, think about the diet industry. In the diet industry, you had things like this: fat-free this, fat-free that, fat-free that. And what happened is they did a study. They were looking at diabetes in children. And what they found was that when they went fat-free, they actually ended up with more diabetes rather than less, because what they substituted for fat was sugar. Now, what happens in the mutual fund industry, they tend to keep costs low by investing in very narrow areas of the market that are inexpensive to manage. So what happens is the investor ends up with more risk than they think that they've got. Now, why do they do that? Because you are actually attracted by low costs. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't use these big mutual fund companies. It just means that you have to be eyes wide open. As an investment firm, we help people sidestep these things because sometimes you have no choice. You have a 401k, you're dealing with these fund companies, and you can't go anywhere else. So what we do is we help you go around these landmines. To set up an initial 15-minute phone call, go to our website, paulwinkler.com, or you can just scan the QR code right here. We look forward to talking with you.
A special session update, what bills are close and what stands no chance, plus a temporary block in rules of House decorum in effect as well after a lawsuit was filed. The first Republican primary debate and a teen arrested for the fourth time this year. Those stories and more coming up at 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, it's a busy news day. Putin has apparently taken out one of his big rivals with a surface-to-air missile. We'll get you the latest on that. We've got, of course, the debate tonight and then the interview with Trump and Tucker that's going to be put out at the same time. And then, of course, we're still covering the special session. I'll get into that coming up after the news with Mac Morey. It is 58 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. All right, right now I got like 96. It's been around 100 degrees today. You need your air conditioning, right? You need your air conditioning desperately. And if it goes out, you should call the company I would call to get it back up and running in pretty quick orders. Just call Busy Bee HVAC and Plumbing at 775-7833. They'll buzz right over to your hive, and they'll do everything they can to get you up and running. You might want to be a member of the Beehive Club. Now, I am a member of the Beehive Club. And in fact, I had a team out here yesterday going through my air conditioning. Now, there are no problems. This is called preventative maintenance. They go through your systems and they really go through your systems. They look at everything and make recommendations if any are needed. And that way, your air conditioning will continue to run. Now, my systems are mostly new, so there wasn't much there, but they still come out and make sure everything is in order. And they'll do that with your plumbing, and they'll do that with your heating. There are 3 different inspections that you get if you're a member of the Beehive Club. It starts for as little as $99. And for that you get the heating, cooling season, plumbing, and all that. No overtime charges 24/7, 10% off all repairs. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 775-7833, online at busybhvac.com.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 99 degrees, and that heat advisory in effect until Friday of this week for most of Middle Tennessee until 8 p.m. Complete weather forecast, the latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. Only a few bills still stand a chance at making it to Governor Lee's desk in Tennessee special session on public safety. Channel 4's Courtney Allen walks us through what's still being considered.
The Senate actually just wrapped up and they passed 4 bills. Now, the first one deals with gun locks. The second one is about how long a clerk court has to notify TBI of someone's criminal proceedings. The third is all about human trafficking. And the fourth gives money for more SROs and mental health resources.
And there are still some bills that the Senate has tabled, but the House still fighting for, and that special session may adjourn tomorrow. And we'll stick with news about the special session here on public safety. News 2 reports that a judge has temporarily blocked the no sign rule inside of the House chamber and committee meetings. The ACLU filed a lawsuit claiming that that rule violates free speech rights, and this comes after the removal of 3 protesters from a House committee meeting yesterday for violating that rule. And the rule is part of a rules package adopted by the House specifically for this special session that includes a provision that states you cannot take voice or nose amplification devices, flags, signs, or banners in the galleries of the House of Representatives. And the first Republican presidential primary debate taking place tonight in Milwaukee. 8 candidates will take the stage, except, of course, frontrunner Donald Trump. Jay O'Brien says Trump's absence pushes Florida Governor Ron DeSantis into the spotlight.
Ron DeSantis is in the middle of that stage, and it's because he's the highest polling candidate on that stage. But according to, for instance, our 538 polling average, he's only polling at about 15% compared to Trump, who's polling in the 40% range. And so Ron DeSantis, while he is the highest polling candidate on that stage, is not polling anywhere near Donald Trump is. So Trump casts a shadow over the entire events tonight.
Crime in Tennessee. News 2 reports that a teenager was arrested this week for the 4th time this year after stealing a vehicle. The 16-year-old was seen speeding in North Nashville inside of a Hyundai Sonata. That teenager then ran off, was later captured by authorities, and he stole a Toyota Camry earlier just this month. And we're now hearing the police body-worn camera audio involving a 3rd-grade teacher in Oklahoma who was allegedly drunk on the first day of school. Alex Stone.
Kimberly, come on in here and have a seat a second.
53-year-old Kimberly Coates was brought into a meeting with administrators in Perkins, Oklahoma. They were worried that she was acting off while teaching her 3rd-grade students. They questioned Coates about whether she had taken something or had been drinking. She said she had anxiety and had taken medication but had not been drinking. She was given a breathalyzer. It came back a .24. Police allegedly found wine in her cup. After she refused to call someone to pick her up, she was arrested.
Can it just...
No, I said I'm done.
Then she was walked through school in handcuffs to a waiting patrol car.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and you're listening to The Drive. Hour number 3 as we bring you news and information you can use, and so we'll get you home. We'll get you, you can run quick like a bunny between the car and the house, so you don't have to be in that humidity and that heat too much. So what is your temperature down there right now, Chris?
Let's see. Let me refresh this. It says 98. Is that correct still? 98 still. Yep.
98. It's 95 here in bucolic, Watertown. And the humidity is somewhere around 75%. So it's just ugly out there. Be really, careful out there. Drink water. Do the things that common sense would tell you should do when it's hotter than blue blazes out there.
How about just stay inside? That's what I say.
The official weather term for this is shoo-wee, which is what my mama used to say when she came in from hanging clothes on the line. She would say, shoo-wee, it's hot out there. I don't know what shoo-wee means, but it is something that I've heard all my life.
It just makes sense, though.
Yeah. It's just a way of expressing that it's just gross out there. Sort of like walking into a warm sponge. Like that. All right, let's talk about the special session. I'm reading a headline here. It says that the Senate will adjourn from the special session tomorrow. So this is going to be, pretty short special session. And honestly, my position. I'm not going to wear you out with it. I've been saying we never should have done this special session in the first place. The governor's not getting what he wanted. And that's simply, they have passed, I'm going to put it this way. They haven't passed anything yet, but there are bills that are merging, wending their way through the House and Senate that in many people's estimations don't have much to do with the Covenant shooting. So I don't know why we're doing this. I really don't. I think it's an example of one of these things where the governor thought it was a great idea, but he never did check with other people to find out if they thought it was a good idea. And in the state, yes, the governor has the ability to call a special session, but the state legislature also has the ability to say, we're really not interested in passing that piece of legislation that you want to see passed. So I don't think that there's any chance at all that that's going to happen. Let me see what's happening here. Anti-human trafficking bill passes the Senate Judiciary Committee during the Tennessee special session. This happened yesterday. Introduced would require the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation to submit a report on child and human trafficking crimes and trends in the state. We're asking the TBI to do some paperwork. Listen, I'm not making light of it because I think human trafficking is of course a real serious concern. And I know that the people who brought this bill forward are concerned about it, and we should be concerned about it. But again, what does it have to do with the Covenant shooting? Nothing whatsoever. Here's one from WKRN. While many gun-related pieces of legislation are not moving toward the Tennessee General Assembly special session, one firearm bill cleared its first hurdle. The bill brought by Representative Chris Todd would allow any law enforcement officer, whether on or off duty, as well as any member of the armed forces, honorably discharged or not, and anyone with an enhanced handgun carry permit, to carry on school grounds or any place used by a school where students would be present. During discussions in the House Civil Justice Subcommittee, Todd and others argued the bill would help keep schools safer in the event of an emergency. And so there's that. Tangentially, it would be something that would perhaps be related to the Covenant shooting, and the idea is to make schools safer. But let me just tell you something that will make schools safer. And it didn't take the state legislature to do this. Let me just talk to you for a moment about this. Let me back up. Remember 9/11? And when we had people who took over aircraft and flew them into buildings, and a lot of people died. they did a lot of things in the wake of 9/11, and this is something that has always informed my outlook about what government does and should not do. We all said 9/11, we must do something. We must react in some way. So we get the TSA, and we get all of this and the other, and the Department of Homeland Security, and then they do this, that, and the other, and they do all kinds of things, in the wake of 9/11, because we have to be doing something, right? I'm going to tell you, in no uncertain terms, what the most important thing we did post 9/11. It solved the problem. What is the problem? We don't want people to fly planes into buildings anymore. We don't want that to ever happen again. How can we stop that? The real solution to all this was not all the things that government did, but something I think the industry did pretty much on its own. They agreed that they were going to toughen the cockpit doors. They were going to make the cockpit doors impenetrable. Now, does that solve all problems? I mean, could somebody with box cutters still create mayhem in the back of the plane? Yes. Is the plane going to fly into buildings? No. And that's the big problem. I mean, there's no guarantee when you get on a bus or you get on a train or you go any place, that you're not going to run into evil. You can still run into evil. But what was the problem? The problem was people were flying planes into buildings, and it was a national security disaster. Solved by the relatively cheap solution of taking the cockpit doors and making them impenetrable. All right? That's what you need. Keep people from getting into the cockpit. That was the way you solved the problem. That was the single most effective thing that they did post 9/11. You can decide whether you think the TSA is worth all the hassle. I don't know. I used to fly planes all the time when nobody there was no security, and people got around the country pretty well. So here's an example of something that is being done by the school system, many school systems around the country. And this is sort of the other example of this. We have a problem. Somebody got into a school and shot the place up and killed 6 people. How do we solve that problem? One of the things that you do to solve that problem is keeping the shooter from getting inside the school, right? Just like we hardened the cockpit doors. Here's what the city of Nashville or Metro Nashville Public Schools are doing, right? They have let a $3 million contract to install entry-resistant window film, and this will be applied to the outside of windows so that, if the door is locked, which hopefully that will be something that the schools will be doing. And the reason that the shooter at Covenant got in was because they just shot out all the glass in the front door and walked in. She walked right in. It took her all of about 10 seconds to breach the front door. But this film, while it doesn't stop bullets, it keeps the glass from shattering. And it's really difficult to get through this special film that is added to the glass that keeps the glass intact. You can't walk through it. It's a $3 million contract to toughen the front doors and the entryways of every school in Metro Nashville Public Schools. Now that solves the problem. You don't have to have a special session. This is something that really makes a difference. You can do other things. I think the answer, again, to making sure that nobody gets in and starts shooting up a school is to make the schools more hardened, just like we made the cockpit doors of aircraft more hardened. Doesn't need a legislative solution. It can be done pretty easily. So, look, I appreciate that the governor felt like we had to do something. And then once he committed to it, they didn't feel like they could back down. But the things that are happening here are only some of them are not related at all. Others are tangentially related to the things that happened at the Covenant School. But the governor didn't get what he wanted. And about I'd say probably 80, 90% of the things that were dropped in the hopper have been killed in committee, are sent on to January for further consideration. We could have done most of this in January, would have been just fine. The real solutions are not always legislative solutions. The real solutions are keep the shooter from getting in the damn school. Come on. And by adding this special film to the glass, you go a lot further to keeping another Covenant School tragedy from happening. So, that's my take on it. I feel like this was an exercise in futility. The governor didn't get what he want. A lot of people who came to protest at the state capitol didn't get what they want out of this thing, and it probably is going to all wrap up pretty quickly by the end of the week. Why did we go through this? Why did we go through all this? No need for that to have even happened. By the way, this out of Clarksville, a Middle Tennessee high school student found with a loaded handgun and 2 loaded magazines by a school resource officer. There's a solution. School resource officers. And woe be to any school system that says we don't want SROs in our schools. Something happens there and you don't have an SRO, you're going to have some splaining to do, aren't you? Montgomery County Sheriff's Office reports the discovery took place at Kenwood High School. The SRO responded with an administrator to an altercation involving 3 students. One of the students had a backpack, was searched by the SRO, who found the loaded gun and 2 loaded magazines inside. It's a zero-tolerance offense with a mandatory 1-year calendar expulsion and a criminal offense per state law. So the folks there are saying, please, take a moment to remind your children about the importance of immediately reporting any safety concern at school to a teacher, an SRO, an administrator, or other trusted adult, and of the serious consequences of carrying a weapon onto school property. I'll be glad when this thing is over and we can get back to a more rational approach to these problems. There are solutions to these problems, but I'm not sure that the legislature is the place where you go for them. 20 minutes now, past the hour of 5 o'clock. Let me tell you about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Dr. Kevin Mitchell is my doctor. He can be your doctor. And all you got to do to get an appointment is just call this number. Pretty easy, 615-246-5009. That's 615-246-5009. Set up an appointment with Dr. Kevin Mitchell. If you're a new patient, your first appointment is only $23. For that, you'll get an exam, a consultation. You'll get x-rays if they are needed. You can bring in x-rays or an MRI if you have them. Sit down with Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Ashley Mitchell, go over your condition, get a plan for treatment, and get started. Again, all of that for $23 for if you're a new patient, okay? I've talked a lot about spinal decompression and how it can help you. It elongates the spinal disc, bringing in blood and nutrition, healing and repairing bulging and herniated disc that can cause spinal stenosis. It gets rid of tingling in the arms and legs or weakness, stiffness, and pain. It makes a lot of sense, and it's actually, I've been through a lot of this stuff. It's pretty easy stuff. I actually found it kind of relaxing. Now they got another thing that's aimed at your knee. It's a KT machine. It works the same way as the spinal decompression. It elongates the knee and the joint and allows the meniscus or the cartilage to heal without the need for surgery or painkillers. So listen, again, it takes a phone call to get it started. And I think once you get down there and see what they got going on, you're going to be glad that you did. 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
Leader of the Russian mercenary Wagner Group dead in a plane crash, homelessness in California, and a suspicious death in Stewart County. All of those stories at 5:30. I'm Mac Maury right here. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
25 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair. Glad you're with us. Republicans launch a national campaign targeting vulnerable Democrats over something that we can all feel. I mean, if you have a car and you've filled up your tank, whew, I filled up. I was down on fumes the other day with the Radio Red Flyer, and which is my big red truck. And I mean, literally, it was like this thing where it said, "You have to stop and fill up now."
It's flashing.
No, we're not kidding. Stop now. So I whipped in and I waited to the last minute to put gasoline in. And by the time I got there, $75 to fill up the tank of my truck. Wow. So, gas prices are going back up. So Republicans are launching a national campaign targeting vulnerable Democrats over skyrocketing gas prices. And you know what? This is a brilliant strategic move by the conservatives, by Republicans. You know why? Because this is something that hits people where they live. Everybody notices it. It's something that, when gas prices go up, you know what the next thing that happens is inflation goes up. And normally, if you're a Democrat, what you do is you turn to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve and you release a bunch of oil and you flood the market and you cause a little bit of a glut and the price of oil and gas goes down. But they can't do that anymore because they've already gone to that well. They can't go to that well again because the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is lower than it's been since the 80s. And they need to start filling it back up, quite frankly, and they're not doing that either. And so you're going to see gas prices. I don't see anything that stops gas prices from going up, and that means inflation. We're not done with inflation. And if we're not done with inflation, then we're still talking about higher interest rates. This is a thing that Democrats are going to have to deal with as they head into an election season. So they are doing a big campaign. The campaign by the National Republican Congressional Committee, the NRCC, will be focused on 21 congressional districts currently held by Democrats that the group is eyeing as a potential GOP wins in the 2024 elections that would grow the party's current slim majority. The effort will involve billboards and digital advertising, with ads set to appear close to gas stations in each of the targeted districts at the cost to fill up a tank of gas continues to rise across the country. I don't know about you, but everywhere I go now, when I get stop to fill up my tank, most of the more modern systems that are in place have a TV screen. They're trying to show you and sell you stuff right there while you're pumping. Have you seen that? I hate that, by the way. I just want to fill my tank and go.
Starts talking to you.
Or the music starts playing. You go, where did that come from? And they do that. But if the Republicans were smart, they would buy time on those systems. Wouldn't that be brilliant? You're filling up your tank, and then they talk about, have you looked at how much gasoline is costing you right now? Who's responsible for that, don't you? And then put up that graphic of Joe Biden. He did it. I did that. I would do that. I mean, that's what I would do. But one way or the other, they got the campaign going, and I think it's going to resonate with people. Rising gas prices are a fresh gut punch to millions of Americans already struggling under Bidenomics, said NRCC Communications Director Jack Pandal. Every trip to the pump is a reminder that extreme House Democrats put their radical war on American energy ahead of working family wallets. And the members of Congress who are being targeted, Josh Harder of California, Mike Levin of California, Yadira Caraveo of Colorado, Johanna Hayes of Connecticut. Well, this list goes on and on and on. They're mostly in states where Republicans think they might have a chance to pick off some of these folks. According to AAA, the average price of a gallon of gas is nearing $4, coming in at $3.86 as of Monday, Consumers on the West Coast are facing the highest prices. It's already in California, $5.25 a gallon. Washington came in second with a price of $5.05. Hawaii, $4.78. The cheapest place to fill up in the whole United States is Mississippi, with an average price of $3.32. And this, all, of course, comes as polling finds that just 25% of Americans believe that Biden's economic policies, his Bidenomic policies, have made the economy stronger and better. That's not much. It's 5:30 now on Super Talk.
"30 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 98 degrees and another sweltering Middle Tennessee day. We're expecting that all week. Heat advisory in effect until Friday at 8 o'clock. Complete forecast, latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. The Russian billionaire who challenged Vladimir Putin's power with an armed uprising less than 2 months ago is said to be among the 10 people on board a private jet that crashed outside Moscow today. The small jet belonged to Wagner mercenary group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin. And while it wasn't immediately clear if Prigozhin was on board, Russian aviation authorities have now made it clear that his name was on the manifest. Tom Sufi Burridge says Prigozhin had been a Putin ally for decades. Then things changed in June.
President Putin went on TV and said that the Wagner Group, he didn't name Prigozhin at the time personally, but he said the Wagner Group were traitors. Then there was a kind of backroom deal reportedly. We think that Putin, the Kremlin, cut a deal with Wagner and Prigozhin. Then we got reports that Prigozhin had gone off to Belarus. We last saw him popping up in Africa, in Mali. Now we're getting this incident. It appears at the moment that Prigozhin might have met a horrible death.
In California, hours before 3 federal judges in San Francisco met today to hear the city's appeal on a blocked order that would allow the cities to remove a number of homeless encampments. Hundreds showed up for an at-times divided rally over these removal efforts. San Francisco Mayor London Breed made an appearance at today's rally, saying the city deserves better than these camps that are endangering not just to the city, but for the homeless living in them.
We have found dead bodies. We have found a dead baby in these tents. We have seen people in really awful conditions. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired.
She went on to say that they want to help people, but not in this way. Right now in Stewart County, officials now investigating a suspicious death. This happened at the Indian Mound Eatery. Police say that the incident happened at that restaurant. It was near Highway 79. No officer was involved. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the folks over at Genesis Diamond. People here know Genesis Diamond as a value leader. They've proven it time and time again. You know why? Genesis is a true direct importer with connections that go back 50 years plus. No middlemen markups, no consignment fees, no third-party people to pay. But one thing that people here really love about Genesis, this is where you get her a better ring, a designer ring, a handcrafted ring that reflects how you see her. While other stores sell knockoff rings or crappy overseas rings, at Genesis you can get her a stunning designer ring made right here in America by top designers. These rings are made to last, names like Decore and Verragio, dozens more. She will proudly show off her Genesis ring because it won't be a mass-produced ring. It will be something unique, something special and amazing. But don't worry about the price. Genesis will make sure you can get her a designer ring that fits your budget with a diamond she will love. That's what Genesis specializes in, combining the best diamond value with the best quality ring to give you a total package and a free lifetime warranty as well. Genesis Diamonds, where luxury and value come together every day. Check them out in Green Hills and Cool Springs. And don't forget about the all-new collection of amazing luxury pre-owned Rolex watches. It's something to look at. You've got to see it. It is 38 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson. Glad you're with us. Listen, a couple things going on. You got the big debate tonight of the I guess it'll be all 8 of the other candidates beyond Trump in the Republican Party will be on the debate stage for a debate tonight that starts, I think, 8 o'clock Middle Tennessee time. At the same time, Donald Trump will be releasing a pre-taped interview that he did with Tucker Carlson on the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, now called X. How long do we have to keep doing that?
Yeah.
You think people know?
I'm tired of it already.
I know, but I mean, honestly, I guarantee you, if you ask 100 people what X is, and then you ask them the same question, what is Twitter? They'll know Twitter. They won't know X.
What's X? The letter that comes after W?
X, Y, and Z. Well, anyway, that's going to happen, and so it's really interesting because Trump is counter-programming against Fox because he's sort of irritated with them right now. And then let's see what else is going on. Oh yeah, this whole thing with the Wagner Group. The guy that was in charge of the Wagner Group, Prigozhin is his name. This was a guy that many thought was trying to mutiny Vladimir Putin back in, what was it, June? He was he's a sort of a mercenary force. It's not really Russian military. It's sort of a mercenary force that he was in charge of. And they've been down fighting in Ukraine on behalf of Russia. And then all of a sudden, one day in June, they just said, we're out of here. We're punching out. And they started heading toward Moscow, got with them at about 150 miles of Moscow, and then stopped. And then there was a conversation between Prigozhin and Putin, and they've been seen together. It seems like they had kissed and made up. Their differences were worked out. Well, today, Prigozhin was flying from Moscow to St. Petersburg, we believe, because we believe, according to the manifest, he was on this plane. And it was shot down by a surface-to-air missile, a Russian surface-to-air missile. This is not a terrorist attack. This is a Putin attack, is the way it looks. And, still a bit of curiosity and a little bit lack of clarity about it. For sure he was on board, but it's believed he was. And that's happening today. That was pretty interesting. But I want to spend the rest of this hour talking about the situation on the border. Every day I come in here, I start about noontime. I eat an early light lunch, and then I sit down and begin my process of doing research for the show that starts at 3. And so I put in 3 hard hours, and I never know what I'm going to find. Some days you'll say, well, I just not much. It's a slow day. Sometimes you've got more than you know what to do with. And some days a story that you don't think is going to be a big story turns out to be a bigger one than you might imagine. And today, again, I have an interest in stories that have to do with the crisis on the border. But, I mean, there's a whole just crap load of stories about what's going on down there. Sounds like something is up. First of all, this poll. Americans overwhelmingly concerned about the situation on the border. The vast majority of Americans, according to Just the News, are concerned about the situation at the U.S. border. Center Square's voice poll conducted said that they talked to about 1,000 registered Democrats and about 1,000 registered Republicans and 500 independents. 82% said they were concerned about what's happening at the border. 82%. 47% saying they are very concerned. 35% saying they are somewhat concerned. Only 13% said they are not concerned at all, and 4% are unsure. The general public still very much believes the border is an issue, but it also should be ringing alarm bells for politicians because they haven't come up with a solution for the border, says CEO of Noble Predictive, talking to Center Square. For voters 55 and older, 56 respondents said they're very concerned about the border. And an additional 31 said they're somewhat concerned, making that 87% of the demographic. Wow. That's high. So it is something that's on people's mind because they see the pictures and they know what's happening in their community. Maybe they know if they live in a big city that all of a sudden, like New York City is overrun with all of these migrants who've been shipped there because New York City at one time said it was a sanctuary city, and there they go. But gosh, there's so much more. Let me keep going here. Border encounters with migrants with suspected terror ties jumped 15% last month. That's right. The number of individuals on the terrorist watch list encountered between ports of entry rose from 143 to 149 so far in fiscal year 2023, according to the latest data. Of the 149 total, 146 had been encountered at the southwest border. 3 had been encountered at the northern border, which is the highest amount for this category since at least fiscal year 2017. People who are on the terrorist watch list are coming through the border. Now, sometimes they're getting caught. How much of the time are they not getting caught? How many sleeper cells are in America right now because they came in through the southern border and were not captured or detected by law enforcement? Wow. This story. Border agents arrest an illegal alien who was already deported 10 times, Reuters and the Daily Caller. Border Patrol agents arrested an illegal alien who was previously deported 10 times, Miami Sector Chief Patrol Agent Walter Slosar said in a Monday tweet. The Mexican national, who had a criminal record, was convicted and sentenced to prison for 10 years, while illegal migrant encounters at the southern border topped a record 2.2 million in fiscal 2022. Immigrations and Custom Enforcement removed roughly 72,000 illegal aliens, compared to 185,000 in 2020. That's less than half. Authorities arrested the illegal alien who was previously convicted of trespassing, fraud, and resisting arrest in Tampa, Florida. Adam Hoffner, spokesperson for Border Patrol Miami Sector, told the Daily Caller. Great work, but, I mean, how does somebody get into the country and get deported 10 times? And there's no security down there. ICE agents are arresting migrant sex offenders and murderers from states far from the southern border. It's not just border states and its citizens that suffer greatly from President Joe Biden's open border policies, writes Sarah A. Carter. Last week, U.S. Immigration and Custom Enforcement arrested foreign nationals in states far from the border, wanted for violent crimes, including sex offenders and murderers. The people who are making their way into this country are not being properly screened. Some of them, of course, are getting through without any contact with law enforcement. And some of these people are very, very, very bad people. Chicago Division of ICE arrested a Bosnian citizen with an active criminal arrest warrant issued by a county in Kansas for second-degree murder. Days later, the New York City Division agents arrested a 56-year-old international fugitive wanted in Guatemala for aggravated rape in a continuous manner and with special aggravating circumstances. Early last week, the Baltimore Division agents apprehended an Eritrean national in Washington, D.C. He was wanted for convictions in 2017 for sex crimes and sexual abuse committed against a minor, third-degree sex offenses, and incest in Montgomery County, Maryland. He was arrested after having lived in the United States for 25 years. A judge is to decide if Texas can keep a buoy barrier that they installed along the Rio Grande to prevent migrant crossings. This from Fox News. A case over where Texas can keep a floating barrier on the U.S.-Mexico border will land before a federal judge Tuesday next week as Republican Governor Greg Abbott looks to keep the barrier amid efforts from the Biden administration to remove it. On Tuesday, U.S. District Judge David Ezra will hear the lawsuit brought by the Justice Department, which argues the barrier poses humanitarian and environmental risk and could further strain international relationships with Mexico. Oh, well, so freaking what? In defense of the buoy barrier, which was installed on the Rio Grande in July, Abbott said it was erected to prevent a surge of migrants into the U.S. as a result of the Biden administration and Congress failing to secure the border. I got no issue with this. I got no issue with this whatsoever. State of Texas taking action, and the federal government is telling you, no, you can't do this. Man, I tell you what, I don't understand how in the world the federal government can tell the state of Texas that it can't protect its border because the federal government is not doing it. Then this, the Biden administration is allowing thousands of illegal immigrants to pour into America through welded open floodgates on the Arizona border. The floodgates in Tucson are now the busiest point of illegal entry into the country. A post on Instagram showed illegal aliens arriving from as far away as Senegal, Mauritania, India, and China. The illegal immigrants first buy plane tickets and spend thousands of dollars traveling through Mexico to come to the U.S. while posing as refugees. To pass through the borders, Biden fails to do anything. But the U.S. officials have inexplicably, man, this hacks me off, welded open 114 massive gates along the Arizona border. Now, they say they're doing this to allow the water to flow during the monsoon season and for the migration of endangered species of antelope. But the move is also letting in an average of 1,400 migrants from as far away as China. They just casually walk into the country through the gates that are welded open. We thought the agents were going to tell us something, one Ecuadorian immigrant said, but we just walked in. Nothing like our journey through Mexico. That part was hard. I thought there was going to be more security. Last month, more than 42,000 migrants crossed the U.S. border in Arizona through 114 floodgates. And this is about the antelope. This is not about the antelope. I have got nothing else. I mean, it's just, can you believe this stuff? 50 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I recently did a workshop talking about some of the missteps of the investing industry, some of the biggest mutual fund companies out there. You probably recognize these names: Fidelity, Vanguard, Raymond James, Edward Jones, actually using data and information from their own websites as I walk through this. Now, one of the things I was talking about is diversification and how investors could be in for a rude awakening at the amount of risk that they actually have in their portfolios, and they don't even realize it. Now, the example I like to use to help people understand why why do these huge companies do this? I mean, these are big companies. And you go, well, why? Well, think about the diet industry. In the diet industry, you had things like this: fat-free this, fat-free that, fat-free that. And what happened is they did a study. They were looking at diabetes in children. And what they found was that when they went fat-free, they actually ended up with more diabetes rather than less, because what they substituted for fat was sugar. Now, what happens in the mutual fund industry, they tend to keep costs low by investing in very narrow areas of the market that are inexpensive to manage. So what happens is the investor ends up with more risk than they think that they've got. Now, why do they do that? Because you are actually attracted by low costs. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't use these big mutual fund companies. It just means that you have to be eyes wide open. As an investment firm, we help people sidestep these things because sometimes you have no choice. You have a 401k, you're dealing with these fund companies, and you can't go anywhere else. So what we do is we help you go around these landmines. To set up an initial 15-minute phone call, go to our website, paulwinkler.com, or you can just scan the QR code right here. We look forward to talking with you.
Let's talk about Everseal, and I'm gonna start by telling you exactly what it is. It's a really remarkable sealant for concrete and wood. I mean, it's been around for ages. It was mostly used in industrial applications until the folks over at Everseal figured out a way to provide a permanent solution for sealing your exterior wood and concrete at a price that, well, home and business owners could actually afford. Now, first thing they do is they come in and they deep clean your wood and concrete to make it look as good as it can ever look. And then they apply their patented sealant, which absorbed all the way through to become a permanent part of the wood and concrete to prevent any further deterioration. And I'm not making these numbers up. For the next 30 to 50 years. I mean, that's really something right there. So you can spend weekends cleaning your deck or your driveway or your home and then watch the weather to find the perfect time to apply some protector to the surface that'll be gone in a year or two. Or you can do it one time and forget about it. And think about how much money you'll save if you don't have to do that every year. Think about, okay, what it costs to seal your deck. Now think about 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. So, do it one time and forget it. Do it one time and start using your deck and your concrete outside in the way that you want to. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, why don't you reach out to Steve Nelson and the team over at Everseal. Here's the number, 844-EVER-USA. Or learn more by going to their website, ever-seal.com.
It's 6 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 98 degrees and a heat advisory in effect all week, ending Friday, 8 o'clock. Got a weather forecast and the latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes, starting with some breaking news. This is from News 2 over in Marshall County. A Lewisburg firefighter was arrested this afternoon on child rape charges. Over the course of the investigation, agents identified 31-year-old Justin Barron, and agents developed the information that at the time, Barron had sexual contact with an underage girl during the summer of 2020. He was later arrested, and he's now in the Marshall County Jail on a $150,000 bond. Now over to some news. Over the special session, only a few bills that stand a chance at making it to Governor Lee's desk in Tennessee's special session on public safety. Channel 4's Courtney Allen walks us through what's still being considered.
The Senate actually just wrapped up, and they passed 4 bills. Now, the first one deals with gun locks. The second one is about how long a clerk court has to notify TBI of someone's criminal proceedings. The third is all about human trafficking, and the fourth gives money for more SROs and mental health resources.
And there are still some bills that the Senate has tabled, but the House is still fighting for. The special session may adjourn tomorrow. And sticking with the topic of safety in Tennessee, school safety in Nashville. Channel 4 says that Metro Public Schools are set to add entry-resistant window film after a $3 million contract was approved. The glass is supposed to hold in place and not shatter even if multiple rounds go up against it. The school's agenda states that the contract will not exceed $5 million. And the leader of Russia's Wagner mercenary group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, was aboard the private jet that crashed outside of Moscow today. That's according to Russian aviation authorities. All 10 passengers and crew were killed, and video of this incident has been shared on social media. It shows debris falling from the sky, a smoke trail leading to the aircraft. And those clues, coupled with the wreckage showing signs of an inward puncture, lead Marine Colonel Steve Ganyard to believe that either a surface-to-air or air-to-air missile brought this plane down.
If it had been a bomb on board, we would have seen deformation that would have been expanding out of the aircraft. Right now, we're seeing the puncture holes that are a signature of a surface-to-air or an air-to-air missile impacting that aircraft.
And now over here to Tennessee, Franklin police have now given the all clear after a bomb threat at Twice Daily. This was on Carruthers Parkway. It happened this morning. The Tennessee Highway Patrol's bomb squad determined that there was no threat, and all surrounding streets were later opened. And migrant deaths in the Mediterranean now passing a grim milestone. Inestela Catera fills us in.
The International Office of Migration confirming to ABC News that to date, over 2,000 migrants have died in the central Mediterranean since the beginning of the year. It's a crisis believed to be fueled by the iron boats on which many of the migrants depart, often from Tunisia, which are both fragile and extremely overcrowded.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. This is the fourth hour of today's edition of The Drive for August 23rd. It's still warmish out there, pretty hot. So take it easy as you get home and spend some time with the fam. And when you go in the door, you know, you can be able to spout knowledge. It's something you learned during this program. We're getting some information from the Maui fire that is really disturbing. We know that there are about 115, let's just round it up, about 115 people who have been pronounced dead as a result of that fire. But if the FBI is correct, and this number may not be correct, but it's been 13, 14 days now. And they're now saying that after they reconciled a whole series of different lists that were out there, that there may be somewhere between 1,000 and 1,100 people who are unaccounted for. It was a tragedy. And not only did people lose everything, but I mean, a lot of people have lost their lives, and it may take a long time to identify and find actually remains, because I mean, parts of this island are just burned to an absolute crisp. I don't know that it's going to be something that they easily are able to do. It may take a long time, and we may never have all of the answers. But it's bad. And what there's going to be a lot of investigations and a lot of finger pointing, and people are going to say, should have done this, should have done that. But I ran into this story, which tells me everything I need to know about what I'm going to do if I'm ever faced with a similar situation. Maui residents, from thehill.com, Maui residents who disobeyed barricades survived the fires. Those who disobeyed the barricaded road closures during the Maui fires survived the disaster, while many of those who heeded orders to turn around perished in their cars and homes with no way out, according to the Associated Press. At least 114 people were killed in the fires earlier this month. The FBI is estimating that up to 1,100 more are unaccounted for. Officials are facing increased scrutiny for the emergency response, including why the emergency sirens were not turned on and whether closing the roads prevented people from getting to safety. In the early hours of the Maui fires, there were more than 30 power poles downed along a certain highway on the south end of Lahaina, a historic town that was decimated by the fires. Officials closed Lahaina Bypass Road due to the fires, blocking the only way out of Lahaina to the southern part of the island. Maui Police Chief John Pelletier said during a news conference that officers never stop people from leaving the area, but the AP report suggests that residents were discouraged from disobeying the barricades. One family swerved around the barricade set up to escape the flames, while another resident took a dirt road uphill to climb above the fire, according to the AP. However, many others who stayed in the car on that road were stuck in a gridlock with fire surrounding them on both sides and the ocean on the other side. Nate Baird and Courtney Stapleton recounted their experience to Associated Press, saying they loaded their car up with their two sons, Baird's mother, and one dog to escape the flames. When they turned south to escape Lahaina, they were met with cones and told to turn around to Lahaina, which was already on fire. And they said, screw that. Instead of turning around, they swerved past the cones and escaped to a neighboring town. They basically went around the person who was flagging them and telling them to turn around and went to a neighboring town, and they survived. Nobody realized how little time we really had. Like even us being from the heart of the fire, we did not comprehend. We literally had minutes and one wrong turn, and we would all be dead right now. Baird told the reporters that if they had 10 more minutes, they could have saved children who were left home in their neighborhood during the fires. The kids don't have a filter, so their son ran up and was just telling our son, this kid is dead, this kid is dead. And it's like all my son's friends that come to our house every day, and their parents were at work, and there was nobody home, and nobody had a warning. Nobody knew. Kim Cuevas-Reyes said she survived with her two sons by ignoring orders to turn right onto Front Street, which by then had been devastated by fires. Instead, she turned left and drove in the wrong lane to escape the town. The gridlock would have left us where the firestorm came. I would have had to tell my children to jump into the ocean as well and be boiled alive by flames, or we would have just died from smoke inhalation or roasted in the car. In times of crisis, government is in chaos. Information is often muddled at best. And you need to do what you need to do to take care of you and yours. I mean, so what's going to happen? What's the worst thing that happened? I mean, there are people who are so conditioned to following the rules and the suggestions laid out by law enforcement. And I'm a big law enforcement guy, don't get me wrong. But in a situation like this, the law enforcement guidance was 100% wrong. And some people just decided, I'm going to take this on my own. I'm going to just blow past these people. And if I have to deal with consequences later, then I'll deal with the consequences later. What's the old saying? It's I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried out by 6. Well, that's what they did. They disobeyed the rules. They went around the barricades. They went around the flag people who were trying to stop them from going that way. And as a result, they saved their lives. Okay? Now, set that aside for a moment, but compare and contrast that with, what may be coming down the path. I haven't talked about it a great deal. I don't think it's anything to be really concerned about at the moment. But, I read everything and that I can put my hands on. And it is true that we are seeing a slight uptick in COVID. Don't turn me off. Listen, I know just saying that word makes you want to turn the channel, does it? But don't. Because I'm going to tell you something. We may actually find ourselves in a place where government officials are again going to tell us to do one thing, and we're going to have to make a decision about whether or not we follow that guidance or we rebel against it. Much is being made of an interview that Anthony Fauci gave the other day to Wayne University, where he is defending the use of lockdowns in a pandemic. Now, again, don't go anywhere because I'm going to bring this all full circle, okay? Here is what Fauci said.
You have to have a reason to lock down, for example, in New York City, when Elmhurst Hospital was overrun and they were having cooler trucks outside because they had no places to put the bodies. You had to have something to immediately shut down the tsunami of infection. That lockdown was absolutely justified. The real critical question is, what do you do during the lockdown? And when do you stop locking down? So lockdown has a purpose. One of the purposes, if you don't have a vaccine, it's to get more ventilators, get the hospitals better prepared, get more people involved in the healthcare sector to do it until you decompress the pressure on the hospitals, then you could open up. If you have a vaccine available, you might want to lock down temporarily so you can get everybody vaccinated. That was, I think, one of the problems in China. They locked down for a long time, but they didn't effectively vaccinate all of their older people. So when they opened up again, all of the elderly, not all, but many of the elderly people got infected. So lockdowns with a purpose work. It saves lives.
Now, is Fauci laying the groundwork for another lockdown to come if COVID starts to rear its ugly head in a bigger way? I don't know. It may be an overreaction because we're just so sensitive to this topic. But Fauci's comments come, according to townhall.com, as one Southern college brought back mask wearing, physical distancing, and restrictions on large gatherings, and contact tracing for the next 2 weeks. A Hollywood studio has also re-implemented mask mandates. Are we headed down this path again? And what are you going to do if again, you are ordered to do certain things? Are you going to be the person who answers and follows the guidance laid out by government? Or are you going to be like the people in Maui who said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go my own way, and I'll take my chances this way. I don't know that we're going to be in the same position, but people are starting to talk about it, and people are starting to get concerned that the Biden administration will again overreact when it comes, and as a way of, I don't know, whatever their motivation is. Are you going to be the person who stops at the barricade and turns around and goes back? Are you going to be the person who says, there ain't no way I'm doing that? I know where I'm at, and I don't care where the chips fall. You need to think about it, because that may become something you have to think about it in the days, weeks, and months ahead. I hope we don't, but you may have to. 18 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Have, some good news for those of you who have lived in Tennessee for a long time. I mean, you know about Eurofix. You've been watching them. Eurofix, of course, is the place where you take your European car for repair. They've been in business now for 24 years, and you've watched them grow. Well, I don't know about you. I love watching a hometown business take off, and the folks at Eurofix are now proud to announce that they have a new location for Eurofix in Mount Juliet, on Mount Juliet Road, right across from the Dairy Queen. Eurofix can now serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and Mount Juliet. It's pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic who started in a barn in the backyard of his single-wide trailer grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. I said thousands of cars a month. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair. Why don't you just call this number to get your appointment? Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. So, we got this big debate going on tonight. I figure it's about an hour and a half from now. It will be, 8 o'clock Middle Tennessee time on Fox News. Just so you know what's going to be happening there is that you've got a debate, and there are there are 8 people going to be on the debate stage. We wondered about Doug Burgum, the North Dakota governor, who we understand has torn his Achilles tendon. But according, we had a source right there backstage at the debate when we talked to Pete Hegseth earlier today, and he said, "I saw Governor Burgum. He's got a crutch, and he's hobbling around, and he's just going to, try to power through because you have to. There are certain rules. You can't sit down. You can't have a stool. You got to stand there for the duration. That's part of the debate rules." So, because, by the way, did you hear how he did this? He was playing a pickup basketball game with his campaign staff in Milwaukee. Tore his Achilles tendon. Governor Doug Burgum, the governor of North Dakota, is 67 years old and ought to have enough sense not to be out there doing that, but nonetheless, he did. He went to and there was some question this morning whether he's going to be there at all, but apparently he says he'll stand there and endure the pain. I have a feeling they're going to have him on, hydrocodone or something. It could be really fun to watch him. I don't. We'll watch and see how that all works out. I don't know. As having had to take some hydrocodone, back during my shingles bout. I can tell you're goofy. So it'll be very entertaining. Or it'll probably be fine. But he's going to be there. And so they're going to ask questions. And the real question is the elephant that's not in the room. And how about that? GOP elephant not in the room. Donald Trump will not be there, of course. He has already taped an interview with Tucker Carlson. And that will be played out exactly at the moment that the debate begins. Now, what is that all about? Well, it's because Donald Trump is irritated. As somebody put it, he has a love-hate relationship with Fox News, and right now it's more in the hate category than the love category, and he's upset with them. So he said he's not going to be a part of their debate. It doesn't make any sense for him to be a part of the debate anyway. He's 30, 40 or more points ahead of the nearest leading candidate, who is Ron DeSantis. And so you have that. He's going to be giving that interview is going to play out on this thing we call X, which was once called Twitter. And then tomorrow, he's playing this like beautifully. He's going to go and get arraigned in Georgia, and in the whole 9-yard dog and pony show that comes with that. He's not really worried about it, because as he is fond of saying, every single time you come at me and you throw an indictment at me, I only get stronger. And so far that has proven true. So the question, I saw today Rudy Giuliani's mugshot. These mugshots are not what I thought they were going to be. It's not like he's holding the little card and there's a thing that shows how tall you are. In fact, some of these things, if I had some of these pictures were so good, because there's like a bunch of people that are now going through the process. Rudy Giuliani went through it. His mugshot looks great. I'd use that as my social media picture. It's that good. All it is it's a bland backdrop with the sheriff's office logo in the background. That's it. So one woman, I'm not sure who she is, but one of the people who was brought in, young woman, gave her 1,000-watt dazzling smile as she had her picture taken, or picture took, and she looked great. That's the way you do it. But I'm not sure whether Donald Trump will have his taken or not. But the expectation is that he might. He'll come in, do this thing, pay his $200,000 bond, and move on. And here we go. And by the way, doing that on Thursday, it just eats away at what would normally be the big day after story following the debate. He's gonna try to hurt Fox News by doing the thing with Tucker. It's a real jam against Fox what he's doing. is that he's got Tucker Carlson, who Fox recently fired, to do the interview. So he's competing against the debate. People will have to choose which one they want to watch. And then the next day, he will dominate the news coverage, which would normally be dominated by those great clips from last night's debate will not be being played as much because everybody will be in full chaos mode trying to cover the dog and pony show. That is Trump coming to Atlanta, Fulton County, to be booked. So, I was talking to Pete Hegseth earlier today. We're in uncharted territory. Where's this thing going to end? I mean, it's entirely possible that the Republican nominee, could be in the middle of a trial as we go to Election Day. It's entirely, possible that he might have been, that he might be convicted of some charge. Now, I don't think that many of these charges have much that will hold up an appeal, but it takes a while to do that. Just looking at the calendar, it's entirely possible we might have a conviction or something has happened with Trump. And then on the Biden side of the equation, he could be in the middle of impeachment inquiry. They're talking about starting the impeachment inquiry when they get back at the end of August, the House of Representatives. So there's no telling how this thing's going to play out. The only thing I can tell you is I'll be here every day rubbing my hands gleefully to tell you the story of the day. And I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are. It'll be uncharted territory and really, really interesting. 30 minutes now, past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Let's talk about United Structural Systems. If you have structural foundation issues or waterproofing issues, this is the company you must call. USS will give you peace of mind. That's right. Now, I'm going to spend some time here in this particular ad talking about what people have said once they did business with USS, because I want you to understand how good they are at what they do. USS is my go-to vendor for everything related to foundation concerns and repairs. USS has never stirred my clients or me wrong. I trust them completely with all foundation questions and concerns. USS is loyal and trustworthy and will continue to be my first call. This comes from a guy named M.E., April of 2023. Chris wrote, the crew that worked on our house has been top-notch. I appreciate the integrity, speed of feedback, and the quality of work. Jerry wrote, this is the best crew we have ever had do work on our house. Best I've ever seen. Very professional. They did an excellent job. Constant. Excellent experience. The entire crew was professional and knowledgeable about their services and put me at ease with the entire process. USS, they're not going to try to sell you something you don't need. They'll come out, they'll tell you what's going on, they'll tell you what the best solution is, and if you decide to go forward, you don't pay a penny until the job is done and you're completely satisfied. USS guarantees their best. They're serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, or online at ussTN.com. You can also call this number, 615-488-7855. .638, almost 6:39 on Super Talk 99.7. Just the last few minutes before we hand it over to Mark Levin. Got a lot of things. I always like to go through during the break and make sure that I've got the very latest information. There's a few details that have come in about this thing that happened in Russia. If you've been following what's been going on there, you remember there was this guy named Yevgeny Prigozhin. And he was basically in charge of sort of a mercenary force. It wasn't strict Russian military, but it had the blessings of Putin, and they went down to Ukraine, and they were just, did horrific things down there in Ukraine as a mercenary force on behalf of Russian President Putin. And then it was like June. We woke up one morning and we found out that, all of the Wagner forces decided to punch out and were headed due north to Moscow. They got within 120 miles of Moscow before they stopped. And a lot of people thought there's about to be a coup against Putin. That's what this is, because we're talking about a lot of military. I think it was like 25,000 forces. So, was he going to roll the tanks right into, Moscow and try to, take down Putin? It was going to be very interesting. One way or the other, something stopped, and then all of a sudden, Yevgeny Prigozhin, he went to Belarus, and then he was seen back in Moscow, and it appeared that whatever the differences were, that Putin and Prigozhin had made up, and then today, Prigozhin is in an Embraer aircraft. If you ever flown, these small Brazilian jets, they're commercial, they're sort of small commercial jets that people use to fly around the country when you don't have, the smaller routes, not the big routes. And they hold about 25, 30 people. So it's flying from Moscow to St. Petersburg. And it crashes. I mean, it is, according to some people who were there, it was shot out of the sky by a surface-to-air missile. In that part of the world, it seems to me that there's only one kind of surface-to-air missile that could have been able to do that, and that's a Russian surface-to-air missile. Now they're saying they're not sure. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but they are confirming that Yevgeny Prigozhin died in that plane crash. His name was on the manifest, and a Russian emergency situations ministry tells TASS, which is state-owned media, that all 10 people aboard died in the crash. There's nothing left of the aircraft, and Prigozhin was there, and it appears that he died in this crash. An investigation has been launched into the crash of an Embraer aircraft, which occurred in the Tver region, according to the list of passengers. Among them is the name and surname of Yevgeny Prigozhin. A Telegram channel, Gray Zone, which some say is linked to Wagner, claimed that the plane was shot down by Russian air defense systems. Some people are saying it's a terrorist attack, which would suggest that the Ukrainians got in there with a man-pad and took down the plane. I don't know. But it did come down and it did crash, and this guy is dead. And most people who look at the situation, although it's not 1,000% buttoned up, I want to be honest with you, believe that Putin is responsible for taking out one of his rivals. We'll let it percolate overnight and see what happens when, by the time tomorrow rolls around. Maybe there'll be more refined information. But the general sense here is probably it was an attack against Putin's rival, and that he's now dead. That he brought him in just to let him lower his defenses, and then took him out. Hunter Biden, there's a lot of different stuff here in the last few minutes. Hunter Biden's investigation, Democrat donors and Biden allies are found in David Weiss's office. At least, this is unbelievable. Washington Examiner, at least 7 prosecutors who worked in the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office over the last several years of the Hunter Biden investigation appear to be Democrat donors, a Washington Examiner analysis has found. One of them appears to have a previously unreported personal relationship with the Biden family, at one point referring to Hunter Biden as a good friend. David Weiss, the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, who earlier this month received special counsel status, has faced criticisms from all sides in the months since. 2 IRS whistleblowers claim that his office engaged in a pattern of preferential treatment for the Biden family. Republicans pointed to the claims as evidence that President Joe Biden's Justice Department was working to protect the Biden family from scrutiny. Hunter Biden's legal team has begun to argue that Weiss discarded an earlier offer of immunity only to appease Republican critics in the wake of whistleblower testimony. No, I'll tell you what happened. The whistleblowers have been proven right. They never thought the whistleblowers would come forward, and they did. Everything that the whistleblowers have said has checked out. Everything that they say is rock solid, and it became embarrassing. And then the judge, was put in a very bad situation because they were about to give him a rap on the knuckles and basically set him free with no jail time after a 5-year investigation. And so the judge said, no, we're not going to. I mean, had heard all this stuff. Obviously, the judges read the newspapers too. They said, well, hold on, I have some questions. Are there other investigations? Does this thing prevent him from being prosecuted? And when the judge started asking hard questions, the deal unraveled. Now, Weiss is a special counsel. And here's the big question. I mean, honestly, it's the real question that matters. As special counsel, will he allow the House of Representatives to continue its investigation, or will he use that special counsel status to keep the Republicans in the House of Representatives, the House Oversight Committee, the House Judiciary Committee, from continuing to do their investigation, which has been very productive. We're getting a lot of stuff out of that. And if he apparently, according to the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, if Weiss does not stand in the way of getting the documents that the House feels like it needs to conduct its investigation, then they will not begin what is known as an impeachment inquiry. However, when they come back after the August recess and they start to ask for more documents, if the answer comes back from the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the special counsel's office that, well, we've got a special counsel investigation going on here, you can't have those documents, then they will move immediately to an impeachment inquiry. Now, what does that mean? It's not an impeachment. It's not an impeachment process. It is just basically giving the House of Representatives sort of supercharged abilities to request documents and to subpoena people. And if they start that process, it gives them the power to continue the investigation, even if the special counsel tries to stand in their way. So McCarthy says, look, if they're going to work with us, we're going to be fine. If they're not going to work with us, then we're going to move straight to impeachment inquiry and really get after this thing. I think we're headed to an impeachment inquiry. I think the special counsel thing was a play for time. And I don't think this is ultimately going to end well for Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. Let's see what else. How much time I got? Okay, enough time to get these two stories in. This story from redstate.com. Another Democrat-run city, Austin, Texas, which we often talk about Austin being sort of like a sister city to Nashville, right? All, with a very similar size. Both big music cities. Both are Democrat cities that are surrounded by hardcore Republican. They're a small island of blue surrounded by a sea of red. After the death of George Floyd, the calls to defund the police was heard in a dozen Democrat-run cities all over the nation, writes redstate.com. Didn't take long for most of the cities to reap the reward of that absurd idea, including Minneapolis. Soaring crime rates no doubt be an issue in the presidential election. But now they're talking about Austin. Texas may not be as red as some Midwestern states, but former Governor Rick Perry had a perfect description of Austin, calling it a blueberry in a tomato soup. I love that. The city has not had a Republican mayor for 30 years, and now Austin residents are feeling the fallout from the defund the police movement. Staff shortages are forcing 911 callers to be put on hold, and the crime rate continues to tick upward. Thomas Villarreal is the president of the Austin Police Association, said on a recent appearance of Fox News that that the blame squarely is on the feet of the city council, and said they are neglecting local law enforcement. We just continue to have a city council that doesn't show police officers that it cares about them. I would say a cautionary tale. A cautionary tale. I like that. Blueberry in a bowl of tomato soup. He's right about that. And then this, finally. A teen leaves a rural Virginia school after an official told him to remove an American flag from his pickup truck. A Virginia teen refusing to demand from high school to remove 2 American flags from his pickup truck is opting to leave the school system altogether instead. A Virginia teen is refusing to demand. Stanton River High School student Christopher Hartless said he was just exercising his First Amendment rights by flying flags. My family fought for America, and I feel like I should be able to represent the flags that they fought for, he told Fox 19. And he went to school in rural Bedford County with the flags mounted on his truck but the administrator said it needs to be taken down because it is a distraction. I like this kid. 50 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Grace Point delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing so you'll know how much it costs before the care is delivered. Smart Care plans start at $69 a month. You'll get unlimited office visits for that. I said unlimited. Free basic labs for the entire year. And because they treat the whole family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. Now, if you marry that with a high deductible insurance plan, it could save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City year after year after year. Seasonal allergies, of course, are here, and Grace Point offers allergy testing and treatment so you can enjoy the great outdoors. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868. That's 599-6868 to schedule a visit.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I recently did a workshop talking about some of the missteps of the investing industry, some of the biggest mutual fund companies out there. You probably recognize these names: Fidelity, Vanguard, Raymond James, Edward Jones. Actually using data and information from their own websites as I walk through this. Now, one of the things I was talking about is diversification and how investors could be in for a rude awakening at the amount of risk that they actually have in their portfolios, and they don't even realize it. Now, the example I like to use to help people understand why why do these huge companies do this? I mean, these are big companies. And you go, well, why? Well, think about the diet industry. In the diet industry, you had things like this: fat-free this,
and so many other unexpected occurrences and dangers.
And what happened is they did a study. They were looking at diabetes in children. And what they found was that when they went fat-free, they actually ended up with more diabetes rather than less, because what they substituted for fat was sugar. Now, what happens in the mutual fund industry, they tend to keep costs low by investing in very narrow areas of the market that are inexpensive to manage. So what happens is the investor ends up with more risk than they think that they've got.
Did you know that Affordable Building Concepts has been serving the Nashville area for 20 years? They're your go-to company if you're looking for a garage, storage shed, or pole barn. A+ rated by the BBB, licensed, insured, and bonded. If you're looking to add a carport, new fence, deck, or patio cover, Affordable Building Concepts
you have a 401k,
615-443-2071 or a free on-site consultation, or visit
around these landmines.
Affordable Building Concepts, your backyard builders. Tell them Johnny B.
15-minute phone call.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, it's Dan Madison. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, or even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. And you don't even have to touch your primary mortgage, so you can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line, 615-499-5780, 615-499-5780, loanpronto.com, 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
You are built for nursing. You're built with the compassion it takes to care for others. You are built with ambition to take charge of your future. And when you start with Galen College of Nursing, your education is built